Welcome to another episode of Chasing Labels. I'm your host, Stephen Billings, and with me, as always, is your other host, Andrew Cabral. How you doing, man?
Doing good. I love that radio voice. You really brought it. Just came out of nowhere, organic like.
I don't know what it came. I don't know where it came from. I just felt it felt like Beetlejuice,
It's showtime.
Oh, gotta go solo through me. Oh,
Speaking of which, they're starting production on Beetlejuice 2?
I'm excited.
I never thought I'd live to see the day where that was going to happen. I always thought it was like this mythic, fever dream.
It almost felt like it was it's almost like it makes me think like Back to the Future. Like we're never going to get another Back to the Future because it's like untouchable trilogy, perfect. And it was like going to be that one movie that like nobody ever, Tim Burton would touch it again because it was too great. And then now he finally, I think somebody threw a bunch of money at him enough to get everybody to come back.
Yeah, I know they've been talking about it for goodness since the first movie came out back in the late 80s. Remember the whole Beetlejuice Goes Hawaii thing that they tried to do in the 90s?
Well, there's the animated series as well.
And then there was the animated series, but I never thought that they would be doing an actual sequel. But that seems to be the craze now. Legacy sequels and reviving old things and old franchises. That is the hot thing to do now. I mean, it took them long enough, I guess, to figure that out.
Look, if there is one, I mean, look, I'm always scared when this happens, because I think of things like the Zoolander 2.
Not good.
Anchorman 2 wasn't the worst.
That third act kind of, I think it brought it down a bit for me.
It goes off the rails, but it's got its moments. Dumb and Dumber 2.
Not good.
Like I think of these movies that waited way too long to do their sequels, and it really. But this particular thing, okay, it has a lot of things going for it. Of course, it's going to have your original people coming back, and Tim Burton being involved is in this case a good thing. The only thing I'm a little wary of is that we're going to rely heavily on CGI, and it's going to take away from that practical tangibleness that original had. But if there was anything that he has done that really lends itself to more story, it's this movie, I think. It's got such a richness, like under the whole afterworld, after death, afterlife, like the dead world. Like you could go deeper into this, and it would, you could keep doing weird things.
Yeah,
like,
Beetlejuice had come out in the modern setting when it comes to the movie world. They would have greenlit all kinds of spin-offs and sequels and all kinds of stuff to expand the world. We would be getting television series, you'd be getting movie stuff. That's just the way it would be. But at the time, that really kind of wasn't quite the way things were, especially when it came to movies and television. They were firmly divided back in the late 80s and in the 90s. Two different worlds that really didn't mesh with each other a lot when it came to crossing the streams. But
now you're talking about Ghostbusters.
I'm talking about Ghostbusters, which yet again was probably another one they would have done the same thing with. And now they're going back and doing legacy sequels now. But now we're getting off track. Let's get back on track. We do have another interview this week that we did with a very special guest. Who did we have, Stephen?
Well, we are on episode Spy number 101.
That is true.
That we are here, and with us as a guest this week, we have a guest that I was really fascinated to hear more about what he does. And that's Dylan Cheung. He is a writer, and also one of his main gigs is a translator. He does subtitling for primarily Cantonese to English translation, and it was just fascinating to talk to him about how he does what he does. I mean, I wish I could be bilingual. I tried to learn a second language. I tried to learn Spanish.
Okay.
You know me, I can barely pronounce English words.
I do. That's true.
So thinking about somebody that has that ability to hear words from another culture and then translate it. And we talk about how translations are interesting because not one thing means the same thing in another culture. And you have to find ways to make that work, and not even just work in finding the meaning, but also making it work on the disc, because you can only put so many words on the screen before you switch to the next thing.
Scene. Talking about the very minutia technical aspects of all of that was fascinating, because it's not something you think about while you're watching a film with subtitles. You don't think about, is this actually what these people are saying, or as we know, or is it more of an interpretation of what these people are saying? Because
Yeah.
there is no one-to-one ratio when it comes to translating things from one language to another. Kind of like the way you would translate something from one medium to another, books to movies, movies to books, whatever the case may be. Things get lost in the middle, and you kind of have to makeshift things to figure things out. And sometimes, one thing I found was completely fascinating that I brought up is depending on, well, you could have the same movie released by different companies and the subtitles will be different in terms of what is on screen. And I'm like, that is just fascinating. And for someone who has like an OCD and wants everything to be like as perfect as they can be, a perfectionist, that's gonna bother me now every single time I watch a movie with subtitles. It's like, is this 100% accurate?
Don't
But
worry about it,
that's
man.
weird. But
Yeah.
I shouldn't worry
So,
about it. Shouldn't
don't
worry
worry
about
about
it.
it.
Now,
Just
especially if
just
Dylan Chung is doing it because he seemed to know
yeah,
what he was
yeah.
doing.
Yeah, he knew what he was doing, man. And it is, as I bring up in the conversation, it is almost like its own art. You have to they do have to make some of their own choices to, you know, not only you know accurately translate something, but do it in a way that is also relatable to today's culture. And when it comes to slang words or things like that, like, so it's an interesting thing. We get into it deep with Dylan, so please, as usual, relax your ears, get yourself relaxed and get a drink or something. Don't get too relaxed. I don't want you to fall asleep, but you shouldn't, because this is going to be super interesting with our conversation with Dylan Chung. So, with us this week, we have, coming all the way from Australia once again. We get a lot of people from Australia, Andrew.
We do. We
They
do.
just
They
fall
love
into
us
our.
down there.
Yeah, I
They love
know, they
us.
love us. But here with us this week, this is a facet of the world we love that I'm really interested in, and I can't wait to get to learn more about this, because I know it's got to be a lot more complex than we realize, and that's subtitling. Translating, making sure everything is exactly, translated the right way, so that we can really take from the films internationally the right thing. And I think specifically he focuses a lot on Hong Kong films. But with us this week is Dylan Cheung. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. I'm always looking through our Blu-rays and looking at the credits and looking at the different types of people I could reach out to get on this show. And I'm seeing your name a lot lately, especially since Hong Kong cinema has kind of had a boom in the Blu-ray market
Mm,
a lot lately.
yeah.
And
Mm.
you specifically do a lot of translating of Cantonese
Yep.
into English. So yeah, that just, I mean, tell us first of all, how I always like to start with just the general, like how are you doing in general? Is your day to day? How you doing?
Yeah,
On
yeah,
a
it's
per-
pretty good. I can't complain. A bit under the pump now, but
yeah,
hopefully when that's over, I'll have a bit of time to breathe. Yeah.
yeah. You
Yeah.
you seem to be busy. I saw recently the few announcements recently, big ones. You worked on the Bruce Lee set with
Yep.
Arrow.
Yep.
Um, the recent Radiance announcement that we're going to talk about
Mhm.
on an episode coming up, the a moment for love sorry, a moment of romance.
Yep.
You did that. So yeah, you're busy, man.
Yeah. For better or
So
worse.
oh no, yeah, it's a good thing too. And so tell us just a little bit about how you got into subtitling, and we'll just start there. And this is a little. Andrew, I'm having a hard time finding a way in, because I don't know enough about this part of the world to know where to start. But please, Dylan,
Right.
guide
Well,
us.
luckily he's here to tell us.
Yeah,
I mean, how it all goes down. I mean, I'm fascinated by it because
yeah,
oftentimes you do these subtitles or the translations aren't very good and they make the films more difficult to watch.
yeah,
So obviously having good subtitles, good translations, accurate of course, make things a lot better.
So in terms of how I got into doing stuff for Blu-rays, that was specifically when God, like it's a few years ago now when they first started doing the remasters. And I think
hmm
it was probably Eureka first started with something like Once Upon a Time in China or something like that. I think it was during that time, that really early period. Um, that stuff started coming out. And then I kind of basically just got wind that they had a lot of people helping them that weren't necessarily, I don't really want to use like, they weren't professional. I say that with
yeah,
quote fingers. And I was just sort of like, well, I've basically spent, even though I'm in Australia, I grew up in Australia, sort of. like Hong Kong movies have been a part of my life forever. Like it's sort of that one sort of in terms of keeping with my parents' culture sort of thing. It's that one thing that I've always been, I guess, lucky enough that I got into.
Yeah.
Because like I know a lot of people kind of my age who like they won't speak Cantonese, for example, because they just didn't. There was nothing for them to connect to culturally, and I was just really lucky that. Well, another thing I was really lucky was that my brother was willing to speak to me in Cantonese. So when I was at home, I'd speak in Cantonese, and I was out with my friends, I speak in English, and then at home I'd watch Cantonese like Hong Kong movies and stuff. And so for me, I'd always had this affinity for Hong Kong movies. And so when all of this remastering and all this stuff started to happen, and then people were talking about Hong Kong movies again, I was sort of like, well, at the moment, the most practical thing I can do is translation. And I've always thought, and you know, Hong Kong movies have, you know, they famously have bilingual subtitles, which are bad. Like it's, you know, you always get,
Yeah.
back in how many like tumblers and whatever, which are about, oh, bad subtitles on Hong Kong movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I was like, well, if they're doing it right this time, hopefully that will change as well. Because I think when people kind of take for granted if you're watching a language of subtitles, that's how you're getting the movie. I mean, of course, the visuals and everything is one thing, but then a big part of how the story is told through the subtitles. And for the longest time, I'd very rarely seen a Hong Kong movie where I watched it and with the subtitles on, even if they were new ones, and thought, I don't hear that at all. Like as someone who is
Yeah.
bilingual, just listening to it is like, that's not what they're saying. It's or it's like that tone is completely wrong. I'm like, I don't like kind of connect with this in any way. And so I basically just reached out to the different labels and was just like, well, you know, I know you've got people helping out. Yeah, can I help? And then I think the first thing I did as a test was I think it was Operation Condor,
Hmm.
the Jackie Chan movie, way before the actual release. So that was actually like they already had
The
that, and that
88 films release.
yes, the 88 films release. So that
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like way before that even came out because that was a much later release. But I kind of already did a set of subtitles for that, and then
Yeah.
that eventually I had to go through and do it again because I got different cuts and all that. But yeah, that was probably like my test of can I do this? Is this guy
Yeah.
for real? Yeah.
Yeah, you know, the one thing about this time when it comes to physical media that we're in is that we've went through so many iterations, you know, of formats, and collectors are getting more. They're getting smarter, and they're paying attention more. And so, like what you did, where you saw that there was something that needed to be better. You know, I think that that's what is making this kind of the golden age of physical media, because we are getting the best version of everything, and down to the subtitles being correct and not kind of like lower on the pole of being paid attention to, instead of just like the restorations just being paid attention to, and maybe some features being loading up features, but also making sure that it's accurately translating the language of another culture, because you know there's things like slang words and you know things like that that are different, and you know maybe not necessarily correctly translated
Mm.
because it's being maybe not by the right type of person doing it. So yeah, I mean, I think that that's what's so good about the time we're in, is that we're getting, you know, the nth degree of you know accuracy on all levels. And yeah,
Right, and
yeah,
it's really part of the overall quality of the presentation of a lot of these releases is not only the visuals, it's not only the special features like Steven said, but it is the audio, and specifically when it comes to um, the foreign language market is the translations and the subtitles. Specifically for me, I don't know if color means a lot to a lot of people, but sometimes certain color of the subtitles on screen
Mm.
can be better than others. I know a lot of people prefer it to be
yellow
yellow
or
or
yeah,
black or um, I find white to be the most difficult one, especially with like older black and white films when they have white subtitles. It makes it very difficult to keep up with the language because you're trying to read the subtitles and concentrate on what's happening on screen. So that could be, I always found that to be rather difficult. But I like that they're updating them, and you always do see that. Um, if you look on the back of the special features, look in the fine print, you see like new translation, new and improved translation, or something like that from some type of from some type of
We
release
don't
from
usually
some.
get a name. not
Yeah, they never tell
not
us. I mean,
always
they
a
don't tell
name.
us a lot of the details.
But that's
They
happening.
don't.
But like you, Dylan, the names are starting to pop out more often. I think a lot of the labels are understanding that us as collectors want to know who these people are. It's important,
Yeah,
you know.
I was really surprised because the first time I think, because I'm usually credited in the booklet or on the back of the
Yeah,
poster
yeah,
or
yeah. Of
whatever,
course, yeah,
and then the very first time, I think I saw my name in the actual announcement when it came to, at least when it came to subtitles, was Chameleon Films Election, which
yeah,
is not out yet. It's coming soon, and that was the first time. Like I mean, I talked to the guy a lot, but I didn't know what was going to go in like the copy that went out, and then I remember the announcement came. I was like, oh hey, my name's on there, and that was sort of like that.
nice.
That's kind of really weird. And
Yeah,
then I think with A Moment of Romance as well, my name is listed specifically that I did the translation. And like
Oh,
honestly, as a film fan and a collector of like physical media, it's just it still feels really weird, even though I've done
yeah,
this. I've done this I'd say fair. I think it's fair to say I've done this for a while now in terms of with the current, um, at least with Blu-rays, and it's just it still feels really weird.
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
understandable.
it is
Yeah,
under yeah, but it's good. It's a good thing, and I think hopefully shows that. I mean, I'm not trying to toot our own horn here, but shows like what we're doing. There's a lot of guys that are doing interviews and trying to make sure that it's important that the names behind the scenes are getting recognized, and maybe the companies are even seeing that and saying, "Hey, well, let's make sure we're like making all these superstars behind the scenes actually get their names put out there, so that it helps other people continue to get work too." So you know,
I
Yeah,
think.
and we've commented on that when it comes to people doing the artwork or the
yeah,
layout designs or anything like that, or people writing the essays, doing the visual essays, the written essays. I know Dylan, I think you wrote a piece for Exiled
Yeah, I
in the
wrote something for
booklet
that.
here.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, and this is another one from Chameleon Films. And Election is was supposed to be coming out, and I think it got delayed a little bit, so
yeah,
it's still
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
in the process.
Yeah.
And that's another Johnny Toe film. But I just happened to have this one here, and
He
I knew that
always
you
he
were
says he
credited in it.
happens to have it.
I got
It's
stuff around
He's
me.
he
prepared.
he's
I
prepared.
what's interesting is you think I'm prepared. It's the illusion. I'm really just surrounded by all different kinds of movies, so I'm just like looking
Oh
through
yeah, me
stacks.
too. I cleaned up a bit before I came on, so it
Yeah,
looks
well, thing
it's
is,
slightly less messy.
Yeah,
I
we wouldn't be able to
strategically
see
picked.
Dylan. We wouldn't be able to see Dylan right now if
Yeah,
it
I
was like
strategically put the camera just right in the perfect spot so where you can't see the piles around me of movies.
Oh yeah.
Just to give the illusion that
wait a
it's
sec.
not there, but I can still pull it off screen,
Hey, Andrew,
put it
lift
out.
up your
Yeah,
arms. Lift up your arms.
yeah.
See them right there. See the movies right behind the mic. See there's
Which
movies there.
there, this side here.
Yeah, see they're
Yeah,
they're
I do have
everywhere.
stacks. I do have stacks here. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I have both
Oh
Shaw Brothers films. I've got all kinds of stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
it's here.
Oh
or
man,
like
he's gonna
see
It's
it
mess it up.
tons of stuff.
strategically.
Yeah.
So it's strategically placed in the medium
So
shot where you only see
it's like
from the
an
chest
episode of
up.
Hoarders. If you see the rest of the room.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
I always think of that scene from Goodfellas when it's the laughing scene where Scorsese shot it all in medium close-ups.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's the way I'm going to frame myself, just like Scorsese would want it to be,
Yeah.
exactly in medium shot.
But
Yeah, you gotta steal
But
from the
yeah.
best.
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
very true.
But
Very true.
yeah. So you well, we're learning so much. Not only subtitling, but you're also apparently doing some writing as well. You do writing as well.
Yeah, I've been doing a bit of writing for them as well. Funnily enough, the first one I did was erotic ghost story.
And yeah.
Yeah, that was the very first bit of writing I did for Blu-rays at least. And that came about because when I heard they were getting into sort of that really kind of sleazy category 3 stuff, I was like,
Yeah.
I want in on it, not necessarily because I'm a huge fan, not that I'm
Yeah.
like a prude or anything, but it was because I thought no one else is going to do this. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you think about it, like stuff like the Jackie Chans and all that, and the Bruce, even like the Bruce Lees, they will come out till the end of time. Like we will
Yeah.
be in whatever format, and they will keep coming out. But like, are they really going to put something like erotic ghost story out on even on 4K
On
and
16K.
on
Yeah.
16K? Yeah. And so when that came out, I was like, I want in just for kind of the sake of it. Like, kind of,
Yeah.
it would be interesting just to work on something like that. And I ended up doing a bunch of category 3. So I did like a bowler syndrome for 88 and stuff like
Oh
that
yeah.
as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. But
And
yeah, I ended up writing a really long thing for that because they were just like, oh yeah, did you want to write something? I was like, sure. It's like, how long is it? It's like, oh, I don't know. Just give us what you got.
yeah. We don't got a lot of people asking about this one, so just please
Yeah.
give us a long one. Yeah, I mean, that's great, man. That's so. Please tell us. Let's go back a little bit and tell us where the you know, where did the love of movies start for you? And then we'll transition. I want to know more about how you got into if this was where you saw yourself working, doing this kind of work, or if there was a different goal. But let's start with your love of film. Where did that start?
I think my family's always been big on movies, just in general. Like I kind of my I've got really typically sort of I guess 70s parents, as you've probably guessed from my name. Uh like house full of books and records sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
Like that like so I kind of grew up in that environment. But
Yeah.
like both my parents were kind of, I wouldn't say they're cinephiles, but they watched movies. And so movies was
Yeah.
like a thing that was just yeah. And then I think by the time we were kind of in that age of DVD, I was kind of, that was very formative time for me, and sort of having access to physical media in that way, and like not when you're already kind of getting away from the video store sort of thing. Like that was sort of, yeah, I guess it just really came from there. And then just like, yeah, like people ask me, what are my favorite movies, and that's like, oh, I don't know, because I watch so much stuff. It's just like,
Yeah.
I love Hong Kong movies, but I'm watching absolutely everything.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I mean, like I know specifically, it seems like you're because you're doing a lot of subtitles for that genre. That seems to be where you're focusing. But I assume you're a fan of all different types of films. So is that something where you would like to do work for other types of genres? And do you have it? Are you? I mean, I know you say you're bilingual. Are you bilingual to any other languages or?
No, just English and Cantonese,
Okay,
unfortunately.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
But what other type of genres are you interested in doing some work for? Or
Well,
is there any
I'm really
specific movies or
like in terms of Hong Kong movies or just in general.
just in general? Yeah.
No, I mean, I at this point I would really like just more rarer things to come out,
Okay.
because like I was saying before, I think there's certain stuff which will come out. Like it's great, it's all getting cleaned up and it's coming out in sort of the best possible format. But I think we've also hit a point where I would like movies that are underseen or people don't necessarily know about, or even like stuff I don't know about. I just want someone
Yeah.
to announce, "Oh, we've got a license for this." It's like I have no idea what this is, and we're seeing like a little bit of that, like when you get like that really obscure like Taiwanese stuff from like unearthed films, like because they did what was a
Yeah.
Calamity of Snakes or whatever recently. Like
Yeah.
I'm all for stuff like that, which is just like no one knows about this, or this kind of went through how many different iterations on video, etc. But yeah, like I don't really have any sort of like dream project. Although I have like, because I'm a big Johnny Toe fan, so getting even to
Yeah.
work on something like Exiled and all of those, like that's been really fulfilling for me already. But in terms of like what's like the big movie I want to do, like I don't actually think there is one, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, you just know it when you see it. The next
Yeah.
you're excited when you see what's announced and you're like,
Yeah.
"Ooh."
Like
So,
everyone else, when I learn about the licenses, it's like, oh wow, I can't believe they got that.
yeah. So yeah, so you're not you're not putting out any feelers like, "Hey, if anybody has this one movie, please let me know cuz I'd like to work on it."
That's always the problem with Hong Kong movies, is that the rights for them are so messed up. It's kind
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
there's essentially one major I guess distributor. I get call them a distributor. Like they kind of own a lot of stuff, and then everything else is sort of up in the air, or people don't know.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started doing this, people didn't know who had Magic Cop, and now that's one of the ones that are
It
coming
just
out.
got announced. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't actually know where they got that from, but they've got it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like
I
just
was
as an
actually trying
example.
to find it to watch earlier.
Mm.
It is streaming on YouTube, but there are no subtitles or translation in
Yeah.
English.
Hey,
Oh
So
could you
wow.
get
could you
on that.
could you do that for us real fast so we
Yeah,
can
I'll do it
just
for you right
yeah,
now.
just do this hour and a half movie so I can watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
No,
watch
but
it
that's it.
together and you just translate it as we watch.
But yeah, I do want to ask about the whole translating process.
Well, hey, can we come back to that? Because we're in the love
Okay,
of movies right now.
okay,
We're in
we
that
can do that.
we're in the
True,
that's a whole other
true.
that's like the whole big part of the job that I would love to get into. But like I do
Yeah,
want to,
don't forget to ask about it though,
of
because
course not,
I do want to know how it all goes.
of course not. But yeah, I do want to continue through your journey because
Mm.
when did you was there what was the other career goals for you when it came to as you were going through school? Were you thinking about being in this field, or was there something else you were heading towards?
Uh, no, not really. I think I always did want to write. Like that was a
Yeah.
big thing. And so yeah, that would probably be the one, I guess, the main goal I had was like it'd be great if I could do something with writing.
Uh-huh.
And then like to be honest, like I couldn't possibly do like subtitling or this as a day job. Like it's
Oh, no,
impossible.
no,
Yeah.
no.
So
Yeah.
it's like of course I gotta do other stuff as well. But in terms of like an actual goal of what I would want to do, yeah, I think writing has always been a really big thing. And then eventually kind of I got into film and it was like, oh, it'd be great if I could do something with that. I think like any person who gets into film kind of goes, I want to do something with the movies. Like even if it's
Yeah.
not making them or kind of being actually there behind the camera in front of the camera, like people always kind of go, I want to do something with movies.
Yeah. I want to
Like,
cut trailers. I want to,
yeah.
do something, something. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I want to do something. Yeah.
and what kind of writing specifically are you just wanting to do like movie reviews? Are you wanting to write books? Are you wanting to anything like that? What was your focus?
I probably did want to write fiction at one point.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll ever do it now, but in terms of when I was a kid, that was probably something I did really want to do. Um, Now it's just kind of I just like the process of doing it. Like it's just
Yeah.
I enjoy it. So yeah, even if it's like writing essays for stuff like this, it's like I like and then with writing essays for things like this because I'm trying to offer a different perspective, or I guess I
Yeah.
want to at least give people things that they probably haven't heard about before or try to find things that would get overlooked because there is no like for example there is no English language like material or resources on it. So that's been a lot of fun just kind of digging through like just kind of doing research and things.
Yeah.
And because Hong Kong's the kind of place where, and especially when it comes to like movies and the entertainment industry, all of that stuff is it's all like oral history, so you got to like look up interviews. It's all just sort of like old gossip magazines and things like that, and just kind of having to dig through whatever I can find just to see if there's any like cool information.
Yeah. Do you ever get asked to translate reading material as well?
I've been asked to do comics a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
people always ask about, do you want to translate, and I'm always it's kind of a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, let's get to that. Let's get to Andrew's question. We do want to know about the process because I know it's got to be a lot more complicated than I think people realize. So please tell us the process of subtitling a film.
Okay, in terms of the technical side,
Yeah,
there's always just sort of certain rules you'll have to conform to, and it kind of depends on whatever authoring software they're using. A lot of the major labels either outsource their stuff, so there's I forgot what his company's called, but David Mackenzie, who's
yeah.
like the big like name and
Oh, I
encoding.
think it's Fidelity,
Yeah,
Fidelity. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I think that's
yeah.
it.
Those
Yeah,
get yeah. Fidelity in Motion.
yeah. Fidelity in Motion. That's
Yeah.
it.
So like the bigger labels will sort of outsource to places like that. Or if it's like, I mean, I don't think this is like a trade secret or anything, but if like your Arrow, they actually have their own in-house kind of authoring. And some places are kind of quite just give us what you have and then those people will fix it up. But then with like smaller labels, it's kind of it's better if you do more of the work just to make sure it comes out okay. And so the most annoying thing really is making sure, and even though this is all automated anyway in like subtitling software, but like making sure things like, oh, it's all really like dull stuff. Like you can't have like how many frames between lines, or you can't, have things go over cuts and stuff like that. Yeah. That it's really the actual subtitling process is really dull. Like the
Yeah, yeah.
technical doing it, yeah.
I'm sure I
Yeah.
was going to say it's probably something that's very tedious
Yep.
that you really got to have patience for it. Like it's not the. I mean, like honestly, the restoration process in general is it's
Mm.
just such a, and then the quality control afterwards, and like just people don't realize how many hours get put into this, and
Mm.
it's just a lot of patience.
And it's
Yeah,
like
Just,
some of these releases take like years
yeah,
in various stages. From ground to the time it gets to your collections, it probably takes forever. When it comes to like your responsibility specifically, when it comes to translating, do you just kind of watch the film in its native language and just
yeah,
interpret
pretty
what
much.
what it
So
was being said?
So something I did notice a lot that was happening was that a lot of times they would just kind of take a Chinese subtitle track and just translate that into English. So it's not necessarily what they're saying on screen. And so when I do it, I'm actually going through it and listening to what they're saying. So what you're getting is the actual audio of what they're saying. That's how I do it. And depending on the time, I'll usually watch it once through and kind of make notes on bits which I'll be sort of like, oh, I don't know how to really work that out or thing like that. Otherwise, a lot of the times after that first run through, I'll just go into it. Like I think that's just I'll just do it straight away and then sort of like iron out the kinks afterwards. Because I know probably the proper way of doing it is you should probably like write a script and all that and do it afterwards. And like, no, I think if I just do it on the fly, I can kind of get a feel for it more rather than yeah. And it's
So
like
how
a lot
many?
of this stuff as well. The deadlines can kind of like creep up on you really quickly.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. How many times do you think you watch a movie before you're finished with it?
Well, I've been a bit more diligent lately where I've been kind of after I think I'm done, I've been watching it through again. So
Yeah,
at least sort of 3 times.
yeah.
I
That's
mean,
not
I
so,
went
that's not too crazy. Yeah, yeah,
that's not too
Mm.
bad. So there'll be like if I have the time, I'll do the first just straight watch through just by itself with nothing. And then there's the actual doing it, but then that's basically like a protracted like 3 week watch of one
yeah,
movie
yeah,
when you're actually
yeah,
putting like or a month watch of a movie. And then after I'm done, I will generally then watch it through again with the subtitles I've done. Yeah. So yeah, so
yeah.
generally about 3 times. For some reason though, I feel like with Election, I watch those more than 3 times, but I honestly can't tell you why. Like other than they're good movies, but
I
it's
was
just
gonna
I
say they're
Mm.
yeah,
good. Yeah,
I
Yeah, they're
can't
good
remember
movies.
why I actually did it. But it was like I remember it was like, oh god, I've watched this like 4 or 5 times already for some reason.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So when it comes to does it? Do you find yourself sometimes having films where it probably takes you longer to do it when you're dealing with a film that's just very just script heavy, very talky, and then sometimes you might get a break where it's an action film and you're like they're not talking
Yeah.
as much. Yeah,
So
you know, it's a good
so
break to have them movies.
yeah, so the Johnny Toe movies are great. There's
Yeah,
not a lot of
yeah,
dialogue in those. So they're so being so again like being a big fan of his, doing those are a lot of fun because it's also just kind of a bit breezy to do them. But the worst thing I would say is probably especially older movies where sometimes the sound quality is really bad and
mm,
there's just honestly lines you can't make out. Like I would
yeah,
just say, yeah, it's impossible. Like no one will ever know what they're saying there. And also with and this is like especially true for sort of like those early Sammo Hung kind of movies, like those early Golden Harvest Sammo Hung movies. There's like really bad sound recording. They talk like a mile a minute in those.
yeah,
Like people kind of don't realize how much of those movies is just like them cracking jokes.
yeah,
It's not like there's like they crack jokes and then they fight, but there's like a lot of cracking jokes and you can't even make it out, or they use slang that like doesn't exist anymore. Like you kind
yeah,
of there is a lot of just like I remember I forgot which one, but it was probably something like Dragon Lord or something like that. And watching that, I was like, I don't know what that means. It's like I
I was actually
understand what he's
just
saying. It's like I
I was
don't get
just
that expression. Yeah.
yeah, I was just going to ask that when it came to translating, where sometimes you're watching a film that's and the language is in such a way that you don't know how. Do you ever reach the point where you just don't know how to interpret it? Like you know what they're saying, but what would be the English version of that? It just doesn't translate.
Yeah, there's been a few times with so the most annoying thing is like with Cantonese people use like expression like use idioms and sayings a lot. And then I'm in two minds about how to do it. Like my ideal way is that you would do it literally because then you kind of keep a certain flavor you wouldn't get if you substituted it. But then that only works if the literal one kind of is really easy to understand. If it's sort of like if you need to sort of explain it, then that kind of defeats the purpose. So the alternative is always you use an English equivalent. But then sometimes there are ones which just don't have English equivalents, or if I kind of look it up, I'll be and this is a really subjective thing. I'll see an expression. It was like I've never heard of that, so I'm going to assume a lot of people watching this haven't heard of that either. I've got to make something up.
yeah,
And the other thing is with Hong Kong Cantonese as well, like in Cantonese in general. is really slang heavy. Like basically, I would argue that there is no such thing as like formal Cantonese. Like everyone just sounds like rough as shit. Like that's just how it that's just how it is. And the fact that the slang has like changed a lot, and it's something I've kind of also not realized. And there've been certain points where, like, because I'm not in Hong Kong all the time, kind of when I go back and then hearing how people talk and then like the new words that come in, kind of just like, like when like internet slang kind of changes, or like in English, it's the same thing. But there's stuff that kind of in Cantonese slang, especially when you go back to like the 70s and that, where because no one's making a record of it, sometimes it's just, even when you try to look it up online, you'll actually find just people on forums going, "Hey, does anyone remember what this means?" Or it's like my mom used to say this like to me a lot, but I've heard other people say it's like something different. And then you
Yeah.
get a lot of that going on. So it's like that's like a whole, yeah, that's like a whole thing as well.
Yeah, you find that it's a great advantage for you that you like you said, your brother, spoke Cantonese with you. It helped keep you in connection with that culture. But
Hmm.
the fact that you have this, whole other upbringing in Australia, and kind of seeing the world in a different culture was a great advantage to you for doing this job.
I think so. So one of the things that happened early on was I think Australian English is really particular.
Mm.
And I was using a lot of slang which I didn't necessarily think was Australian at the start. Like when I was first doing it, I sometimes still like manage to creep a few in because I'm just like, that's the best way of doing it. Um, but I think having that, like, it's interesting because I've talked about this before with someone else, is that if I had to use sort of purely American English to do like a Hong Kong Cantonese movie, I genuinely think I would have a really hard time to do it, because American English generally is more, it's not formal, but it's not as it's colorful in a different way.
Yeah,
Like kind of, you guys don't really say bloody. Like it
yeah,
goes straight to fucking basically. It's like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
but there isn't that kind of like, it's sort of a bit different. So kind of, I feel like I would probably have a really hard time if I had to stick purely to American English. But I've seen people kind of look at my stuff and go, "Oh, they kind of like seeing when it's not usual slang kind of creeps in, because it just there's it gives it a feel that there, someone actually tried to work out the best way to do this."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. It feels like, as a not only is this job a very important job, because we want to make sure that, um I think of that movie. What's the movie, Andrew? I'm blanking. I always blank on movie titles
Oh
in this
no.
show. The movie, Danae, not Danae, not Claire Danae. I'll come back to it. The movie with the aliens that come to Earth, and we need a translator for them. It was
Oh,
Amy
Or
you're
Adams.
talking about
Arrival.
Arrival.
Arrival. God, thank
Yeah.
God somebody knew it.
Yeah.
That translating is a very important thing between languages, and in this case,
Yeah.
it's a very important thing that we know what another culture is trying to say, and
I mean,
yeah,
yeah, the lack of communication or lack of clear communication, is, I think a problem with everywhere. Even if you're talking to someone in English, depending on the format in which you're talking and the tone in which you're talking, can be perceived completely different.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like a nice tone versus a dramatic tone versus a mean tone versus a kidding tone or joking tone, all completely different. And sometimes the person you're talking to doesn't understand that. That's what I think is the biggest fault when it comes to electronic communication, texting, messaging,
yeah,
emails. Sometimes you don't know how to interpret it, and sometimes you don't even know how you're coming off. So that's like an issue. Let alone when it comes to kind of what Dylan was saying with the older films. Specifically, you talk about the Sammo Hung Golden Harvest films, a lot of comedy in there, and sometimes there can be a lost in translation when it comes to the comedy. I know Steven, you kind of
I
miss it
mentioned
a little bit
yeah, I
in a lot
mentioned
of
that
those.
sometimes comedy from other cultures, when you're having to read it, can be difficult to connect to, because you're not from that culture. You don't understand um, what's funny about what they're saying because you don't have the full context.
Right, and
Yeah,
sometimes if you're not if you're just reading it, it's a different interpretation than
Mm,
hearing the
Yeah.
words. Because yet again, it's that tonal thing. It's that just the way in which it's delivered, and sometimes you lose that communication, and sometimes that can be lost in foreign films. And I think, frankly, that's probably why a lot of people prefer to stay away from them. Unfortunately, they don't like to do the extra, lifting when it comes to watching the films. Not just the reading, but the processing the information in a much different way than just audibly. You have to process it mentally with the reading and all that kind of stuff. And I know that's tough for a lot of people, but you do miss out on a lot. I mean, I know a lot of people like English dubs and things like that when
yeah.
it comes to their foreign language. I'm more of a purist when it comes to these things. I want to try to listen to it in its original language because
Mm,
oftentimes the subtitles, like we're covering here with Dylan, sometimes they're not accurate at all.
Yeah.
mm,
Sometimes they're I noticed that a lot with Japanese anime. I grew
yeah.
up in the era of Toonami, of Cartoon Network with the English dubs in the 90s, and then later on, I would go back and watch it in Japanese with the English
Mm.
subtitles. Completely different tone, completely different dialogue, completely different everything about it. And sometimes, that can be a vast chasm of just misinterpretation of what's going on.
Yeah, I think comedy is an interesting one because I think everyone's probably guilty of it when you watch a comedy in a foreign language. You kind of have this assumption, oh, there's this almost kind of instant thing where you go, I'm not going to get all of this because there's probably some deep, nuanced cultural thing I'm not understanding. And I think that's actually not necessarily true a lot of the times. Like, I mean, because, like, for example, there's a lot of Stephen Chow movies kind of getting done now. And then I remember like when they got announced, you got a lot of people going, "Oh, it's Stephen Chow." Like all that sort of comedy is like really sort of word based. It's all like verbal comedy and all that. And I would say it's not really. Like a lot of it is just silly, but because people already have this idea that oh, if they're doing something wacky on screen, but they don't necessarily find it funny because it's just like wacky or it's just shtick, and they're sort of like, oh, it must be because I'm not getting something through translation. But I would actually argue, like, yeah, those early Sammo Hung style movies probably have more wordplay than a Stephen Chow movie. Like, there are
Yeah.
probably more just random, like, and and this is another thing, like, a lot of like jokes in those as well are just sort of they're just like nonsense. Like they just people speak in rhymes or they'll just say something that doesn't make sense and that's all there is to it. It's like there isn't some kind of like there isn't something you're not getting. That's just it. It's just sort of like weird and silly.
It's just it's kind of non-consequential stuff. What's interesting,
Yeah.
like, going because there has been, we've talked about so many times, there's this huge, like, r revival of the Golden Harvest, as well as the Shaw Brothers films, as well as the Hong Kong, like, 80s action films, which are awesome. And it's it's so fascinating how, specifically when you go back to the Golden Harvest and the Shaw Brothers stuff in the 60s and 70s, where a lot of the dialogue is kind of inconsequential. And you're just
Mm,
kind of, they're more action, physical based with
mm,
people moving around, the fight choreography, the weird mysticism that happens as you go along, all of those things. It's almost more about kind of like the spectacle of what's going up on screen versus like the character stuff and the plot stuff. Sometimes the plots are so convoluted that you kind of lose base with them, and then you kind of just are still engrossed with it because of the other stuff that's going on. It's an interesting, way of making cinema that I think is being pushed back into the forefront right now, and which is awesome. It really is. It's a whole new thing I think a lot of people are discovering, and I love that it's being revived now in seemingly really great quality. The Blu-rays and the 4Ks that are coming out. Before, there weren't many companies, I think, putting out a lot of these movies, um, at least like more mainstream available than they are. I know we talk about boutique, and
mm,
boutique is becoming more, larger and larger. But I
mm,
remember, like, the only way you could see John Woo's The Killer or Hard Boiled was on like a Dragon Dynasty DVD that came out in the early to mid 2000s.
mm,
First time I ever saw Hard Boiled was on a letterboxed DVD from the Criterion Collection, where it had the bars on all four sides of the screen because they didn't even have anamorphic widescreen yet. First time I ever watched that movie, still blew me away. but
Yeah.
it's the first time I ever saw it, and I'm pretty sure they've updated those translations by now for those films. But that was my introduction to Hong Kong 80s cinema. I just wanted to go back and ask you, um, when it came to like formal education, was that initially what you wanted to study for? Was something to do with the language? Because you seem well versed in the different nuances of language. That's just something you picked up over time.
No. So I think that's just something I picked up. So when I was actually a kid, I could only speak Cantonese, but I couldn't really read and write Chinese too well. Just because it's always one of those things of you don't use it. Like when it comes to learning like any language, because people ask me this a lot, and I'm kind of just like, it really just comes down to needing to use it. Like once it becomes like a thing where you're using it, it becomes more. It kind of becomes more like a reflex. But growing up, I didn't have to write in Chinese. I didn't have to read in Chinese, and so eventually, when it got to a point, I don't really know how it happened. It was just like I felt like I would try and improve that, and then it's just yeah no, but there was no kind of formal education where like I didn't study linguistics or anything, but it was just when I was kind of picking up written and like reading and writing again, that sort of it just became like a thing I kind of got fascinated with. Yeah, I guess just one of those weird things I fell into.
I mean, I think we all have our things where
Mm,
we get involved in things, purposely. I'm always an advocate for self-education in
mm,
any way because I think we have all of the information out there at our disposal to
yeah,
learn on our own. Some
mm,
people, learn differently than others. Some people need the more formal setting, but I think the information's at least out there to know the difference, at least the basic difference in languages or the basic history of the difference in languages, because specifically East Asian language being unique and having its own history and all of those things, as well as the European Romance languages, the Latin languages, all that stuff. English has got to be one of the most Frankenstein languages I think ever created. I think it's such a hodgepodge of different things where the letters the combination of letters sound differently depending
mm.
on the word. It's so fascinating how that all of that works.
Yeah, I remember for a movie. I mean, I do it all the time when like if someone speaks in an accent, like a very like it's a very blatant accent. I think the my quickest way of doing it is I normally just I drop all the G's and put an apostrophe there. And then I remember there was one character, I forgot what movie it was, and then people were going, "Oh, why'd you make him sound Cockney?" And I was like, "Oh, like I didn't even think of that at all. That's not how I read it in my head at all. In my head, it was probably just some really stereotypical Scottish or Irish thing, but I didn't get Cockney out of that, but you did. So yeah,
Yeah. And harkening back to something else you said earlier, I think one thing that's interesting is that there seems to be still, even though you're translating something that you're trying to make it as accurate as possible, you do run into situations where you can kind of be creative, like you said, and kind of trying to figure out the right way to translate it to the broad audience by trying to figure out which word in English is the best word to describe what they're saying, even though it might not, you don't even understand it. You're like, what does that mean? Like, so you can kind of get creative and be like, okay, this is the best word in English that will fit what they're trying to say. So,
yeah, like something that you get a lot of people who always like not translating literally, but they want it sort of as close to like the original, even like the sentence structure, for example. But then sometimes, usually, like when I'm doing my subtitling, I'm almost sort of like voice acting it in my head when
yeah,
I'm reading all the lines, and then there's just certain instances where even though the sentence structure is right in like you can sort of use the same sentence structure, but when you read it back in English, it sounds weird, and so there'll
yeah,
be times like that where I'll have to flip something, or maybe they'll say something that's like a rhetorical question, but that doesn't really work in English or sounds strange, and so I will have to change it to something else.
yeah,
And so yeah, that's hopefully like these are sort of the small things which I think get overlooked a bit. Because people always kind of go, well, it's just translation. Why don't you just write what they're saying? And it's like, oh, it's not. It's kind of not as simple as that. Like some stuff just doesn't really work when you just write what they say. It's sort of yeah, you kind of have to fiddle around with it. And then of course, when it comes to film subtitling as well, you only have so much space and so much time.
Yeah.
And sometimes, if someone's talking really quickly, then it's like, oh well, you've got to decide
Yeah.
what to cut out, or what to leave in and what to cut out.
Yeah, that's an interesting point too. I never
That
really thought about that. Yeah.
yeah, that is interesting because depending on, I would say probably Dylan probably knows, but I guess like you mentioned earlier, where the Sammo Hung films they talk very fast, whereas
Mm,
perhaps in a different era of culture or filmmaking they'll talk slower, or it all depends on the person, it all depends on the movie, depends on the genre. People talking in a romantic, dramatic way is a lot different than in an action film. I can say that just from a recent episode that we did, well, probably not so recent by the time this interview comes out, I watched the movie Rich and Famous with Chow Yun
oh,
Fat and Andy Lau,
yeah.
and uh, I believe it was, yeah, there is a version of it on YouTube, and it had those subtitles where they're trying to um, directly interpret what's being said on screen, and sometimes some of the things they were saying made no grammatical sense whatsoever. And then, they just like, these words don't go together. It's kind of a jumbled mess. Like, and then it's just fascinating the way that is. Sometimes, yeah, the subtitles can just throw you off while watching a film, so you really have to pay attention to, uh, if you're trying to watch something in its original language, if the subtitles are good or not. Sometimes you'll have to watch out. I've seen this happen many times where some physical media release will will have different English subtitles. They'll have like English closed captioning, which is for the deaf and hard of hearing, or they'll
Mm,
have two English subtitles. One will be the the subtitles for the English dub track, and some are will be the proper English subtitles for interpreting, whether it be Cantonese, Mandarin, Japanese, Korean, whatever the case may be. And sometimes they don't tell you which ones are which, so you have to kind of figure it out yourself. And as someone who overthinks everything, and as someone who has OCD with that, I'm over here like trying to match up the subtitles to see what's the more accurate one. So just be aware of that for those of you
Yeah,
listening, and that
that's
happens.
an interesting point. Like, whenever there's a film that they do an English dub for, wonder if they take the English the translated subtitles that were brought into English and use that as a way to do the dubs. Do they do one before the other, or
I've
is that
seen
two
that
separate
happen.
things?
I've
Like,
seen that happen on certain studio Ghibli releases
yeah,
where they've done that. I think some of those Disney ones, when Disney was releasing them here in the States, they did that a few times for some of them,
yeah,
and people got very upset.
hmm,
Um, so yeah, you're right. They'll sometimes just be lazy and essentially not pay for someone like a Dylan to do the proper interpretations, and they'll just use the English dub track translating and using those subtitles for the Japanese audio track, and
yeah,
that's obviously not accurate.
uh,
that used to happen with anime a lot. I remember.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it did used to happen with that a lot, and it kind of it kind of goofs around with me because I want to make things as accurate as I possibly can
yeah,
to the
But
original, and it's like I almost feel like guilty for watching it if it's not in the original. I bring this up all the time. I'm an original aspect ratio aficionado. If the movie's not in its original aspect ratio, I can't watch it now. Like
yeah,
that's the way my mind works, and I
mm,
can almost tell sometimes where I'm like, yeah, the dimensions of these people on screen do not look exactly accurate as to what they're supposed to look like. The dimensions are a little off.
yeah.
But that's just me.
So yeah, go ahead,
Hmm.
Dylan.
oh yeah, so I was gonna say that actually brings up a really interesting point where I think, I mean, I do subtitling a specific way, which I guess sort of matches up with what I'm trying to get across, or what I'm trying to do, or what I personally sort of, in terms of like, how should I put it, sort of the uh uh having a mind blank,
I guess you're
kind
I
of.
trying to.
do that all the time.
Yeah, Steven does it
Yeah,
all the time. I guess
yeah, no,
maybe you're trying to like do the titles as you would want them to be,
yeah,
or
in a way
as
where
you
like,
interpret them.
or how I interpret them, and sort of like how I would think people, this sounds really bad, how people, not necessarily how people should be watching it, but how I think, I mean, this is how it sounds to me. I want to get it as close as possible to the audience, because I think that's sort of in a way as close as some people will get to watching something without learning the language. So that's sort
Yeah.
of my motivation, or I guess that's sort of the philosophy behind it. But I know there's some people who, like, if you're a slow reader, for example, you want things to be as concise as possible, and you don't really, you're not really that big on necessarily things to be written as more as you want to get the meaning as quick as possible. And this is
Yeah.
something I've also personally kind of run into, like different studio, like different labels or different producers will have different kind of ideas of what they want. And I don't think there's like a right or wrong way. Like I understand the need for both, but I think it's just it. Yeah, it's just like things like this. It's always like a matter of preference. And even though like I'm always really humbled when people tell me they really like my subtitles, but then I also kind of I need to keep myself there like in check and knowing that this is only one way of doing it. There's other ways of doing
Yeah.
it. I know there's some people who don't like the way I do it because they sort of like because like like I'll use like a lot of sort of like a lot of colloquial words. Like I'll use like gonna and wanna because I that's how people talk. Like in my mind, that's how people talk. People abbreviate, people use contractions and that. I have a lot of that, and I know there's people who don't like that because when you're reading, it's not as natural to see those kinds of words, and so they feel like, well, if I have to read the subtitles, I want to catch it as quick as possible. And so yeah, it's just there's like even something like subtitling movies where you think, oh, there can't be that too like many ways to approach it. Like what I do is only one way, and it's a way that I will say at least I don't think many people were doing, but I think we're getting more towards of where people want a certain sort of they want kind of good writing in a way. Like they don't want to just have the basics. They kind of want that level of tone and that level of detail. And while that's the way I like approaching it, I'm also happy to say that, well, of course, there's different ways of doing it. And, sometimes you can't have that. You just want something as, like if you were doing like the news or something, you want something
Yeah.
as kind of crisp and concise as possible.
Yeah, it seems like that doing subtitling, you have to strike a balance. Like you want to be as close to the original intention as possible, but you're also thinking about translating these words to an audience that is way far away from where that original thing was made. They don't, and like you said, sometimes you're running into issues of the translation could be many words long, but we need to get it down to a few words to fit it on the screen so that it can be read in the right amount of time. Like it's like there's a lot of important decisions that have to be made in the right way to make sure that it's paying the proper respect to the thing itself, and that the audience can also understand it in the best way. So it feels like that's just one thing that probably changes over time. Not
Mm.
even just that there's not one perfect translation. Is that translations have to be reevaluated continuously? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. Like even now when I finish something and then if I'll watch it back, like months later, I'll be like, yeah, I probably wouldn't write it that way anymore. Even like
Yeah,
me
yeah,
just doing it and going and revisiting my past work, there'll be sometimes I'll just go through and it's like, yeah, no, that could sound a bit better, or that's like a bit clunky.
yeah,
And I think also the the kind of the fan base and sort of what they want really shapes this stuff as well.
yeah,
Like like I remember when Criterion did Once Upon a Time in China, the subtitles on that are different to the Eureka set, and I remember people were saying, oh, they're sort of more they're not as they're much more concise. I didn't have anything to do like with the subtitles on those, but like people going, oh, they're much more concise. And you had some people kind of going, yeah, no, I wanted the extra detail off like the Eureka set, and other people like, oh wait, no, I don't, because like English is a second language, I need that time to sort of process it when I'm reading it.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think especially now we're in this age of like we're in the age of podcasts, we're in the age of like fans where fans have a voice and sort of people have to listen. Yeah, it really is ultimately what the hard not necessarily the hardcore fans, but what the fans in general want uh is sort of that shapes the direction of how things go forward. And I think at this moment in time at least, um, people kind of do appreciate a more detailed translation over a more concise one, because sometimes, especially if this is a movie that's been released before and there's that comparison, you watch it back and be like, oh, I would never have gotten that from, a more, sort of, yeah, a more concise set of subtitles, for example.
Yeah, I think collectors, they always want more.
Mm,
They always want the most of something. They want the most out of something, and I think, yeah, I could see that a more detailed translation is probably where people mostly fall on. Um, but
Well, I think they feel as if it's more detailed and it's more accurate.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and which is interesting. I didn't even think of, movies that have been released multiple times. We were just talking about the Bruce Lee films.
mm.
They've been releasing those movies probably since the Betamax days and
Yeah.
Laserdisc and VHS and then DVD multiple times and then Blu-ray multiple times. Now 4K. So it's
Okay.
like how many like different translations have those films gone to, and how many times have people seen different translations? And there's certain like touchstone films that are probably been released so many times where people know it better than others. It's kind of just interesting that you mentioned Once Upon a Time in China and how two different studios putting out movies roughly around the same time can have different sets of subtitles, and then I bet you there are fans out there or just collectors out there wondering which ones are the more accurate ones to the original language. Like, is changing it going to make it radically different viewing experience? Maybe that's something someone thinks of when they're trying to figure out which one to buy. Um, I don't know.
I don't know.
I just
It's it's
something
something
my overthinking brain is now
it's
pondering.
something I'd like to hear from other collectors if that's something that they've experienced. Because that's something I don't think I've
Well, we talk
talked with
so
people
much.
about. Yeah,
We talk so much about how different releases aesthetically look different. Where when we're talking with format upgrades and format change, we talk about remastering, recoloring, or color tone shifting and all that kind of stuff. And I never thought to think about the translation issue, where different releases will have different translations. And I guess that's part of it as well. It's not just the visuals; it's the audio.
yeah, yeah. So, but Dylan, I do want to learn more about you personally. Are you a collector? Do you have
Yes.
movies that I can't see in the frame right now?
I there are movies in the frame. Most of them are on
I,
the floor at the moment. I'd rather
yeah,
not change my camera around because
no,
it,
don't
it
please
looks
don't
pretty
please
bad.
don't.
It looks really bad. Yeah, yeah. No, I am I'm definitely a collector.
Awesome,
I
man.
don't know what you can
So
see in frame. I don't actually know what's there.
Have
It's
you
mainly
have you been
books, but yeah.
collecting
yeah,
Have you
yeah.
been collecting for a long time? Like, was this something that grew over
Um,
time?
I probably didn't have as much money during the DVD days, so I think I mean, I probably got into collecting during that shift from DVD to Blu-ray, which was a really big shift. I think
Yeah, oh
like
yeah.
people kind of don't people who weren't there don't realize how big. I mean, I remember when I got my Blu-ray player, which was probably a PS3 or something back then. And then
Same.
yeah, and then I forgot what it was, and I put like a DVD in, and then like it upscales, and I was like, oh, that looks pretty good. And then I remember like getting the Blu-ray of the same movie, whatever it was, and then watching it, was like, oh wow, that's like a huge difference. And
Yeah,
then and
that was the same
and
for me.
and that's broken me. Like I now find like watching standard def stuff a bit hard. Like I genuinely do, and it's kind of like I'm even fine with studios not necessarily remastering stuff and just scanning it and putting it in HD because I can't deal with the standard def anymore.
Yeah.
You're not the only one.
Yeah.
Um, I think yeah, we're definitely spoiled now by great picture quality or better picture quality
Mhm.
than we've ever had before. I
Yeah.
could definitely tell you, growing up in the VHS era of the 90s, it's light years better than what we were watching when we were kids, Steven. Like light
Yeah,
years better.
I mean, I don't honestly, like, we've been spoiled so much for so long that I just thinking about the days of throwing in a VHS and
With the
thinking,
having to adjust the tracking and
yeah,
then the rewinding and the fast
it
forwarding.
almost feels like a distant memory, like it was a dream.
Like, did I even yeah, did I even was that even happen?
Yeah,
On the old giant, like, square
yeah,
Square
televisions.
Square.
TVs,
What is
yeah.
interesting is that VHS collecting and VHS just is making a comeback. I mean, they're not
Mm.
making any new VHS, it's not like
Well,
vinyl or
they are
anything.
sometimes. So
Yeah,
But
they
the
do
it's still
sometimes.
yeah,
yeah. I know they did it for Terrifier and Terrifier 2 as part of that launch, and they're doing it for certain
I
releases.
think certain Vinegar Syndrome and partner label releases have done
Y
some VHS. Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, but it's not like they're not gonna be putting out the newest Marvel film in VHS quality. I don't see
It
that
would
happening.
blow my mind if they
It
put
would
it.
be
Yeah.
shocking.
Yeah. Guardians of the
Um,
Galaxy 3 on VHS. Like,
on
what?
VHS, exactly as it was meant to be seen in
Well, if they
perfect
keep setting them in the
480p.
90s, they will eventually.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
guess so. I mean,
Yeah, the
yeah,
I mean,
Captain
they'll
Marvel
do
is yeah.
your Captain Marvel on VHS, and
I I mean,
Yeah.
they could have done it already. I think it wasn't until the digital age where I started learning about like what resolution was, what was widescreen versus full screen, what was any of those like little like interesting
I,
factoids or trivia things that are now burned into my brain. Like what's an aspect ratio? I had no idea growing up. You just kind of watched whatever was available to you. Now everything seemingly is available to you in all different ways. To be honest, the only way I watch, and this may be sound snobbish, is something that's in standard def or DVD is if that's the only way it's available.
mm,
Right.
A lot of the stuff we cover here on the show, oftentimes these films never even made it to DVD. There's still VHS copies, that are uploaded to YouTube. I bring that up all the time because there's more than I thought on there, and it's not the best quality, but it's the only quality. So that's kind of the reason why. But yeah, nowadays it's so mind blowing how great it is and how great it is, becoming. But back to Dylan and kind of collecting. Um, is there certain genres, or certain labels, certain companies that you keep going back to? Uh, that you
um,
prefer?
well, like I was saying before, I like watching stuff that I've not necessarily heard of, or kind of is a bit rarer. So well, you brought up Vinegar Syndrome. I'm a really big fan of their partner labels. The
Oh,
actual main
Oh,
Vinegar Syndrome stuff, I dabble in it, but most of it's just sort of that's not really my thing. Like I
yeah.
know I mean there's some cool stuff there. There's some like just sort of
No,
like really weird shit there, which like that
you're
kind of fascinates me as well, but it's just
you're
yeah.
describing my buying habits from them too.
yeah. To
I
be
Yeah,
don't
it's like
honest,
yeah.
I don't need all of these
yeah,
kind of thing.
this is all partner label stuff.
Yeah.
It's all
Mm.
partner label stuff
But
next to
yeah,
me.
but the partner labels like they're kind of ones I keep going back to, and I'm always really keen on what comes out from them. Uh,
You got a favorite
I'm
partner label?
probably Fun City or Connie,
Yeah.
both of them.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
two
and
good ones. Yeah.
Canadian International are really good as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. We had that. We've
But
had all them. Well, we haven't had Connie on yet, but we've had Fun City. We had Jonathan Hertzberg on, and we've had the two guys over there, David and John from Canadian International. Yeah,
Mhm.
they're doing great stuff. Yeah.
the
Yeah,
Canadian
their releases
International
are always.
stuff's really fascinating to me because it's sort of like I have like so little uh like I have so little kind of experience with Canada. Like it's just sort of I know about Canada.
Yeah.
I know generalizations about Canada. I know it's kind of like America, but not. And then so like watching this stuff was like, oh wow, like they've got like their whole like it's like a whole other thing going, like with like like the French cinema up there, which is basically
Yeah.
just for like Quebec and all that. Like so that label was really fascinating to me, and again, kind of almost links back to my love of Hong Kong cinema. This idea of even a really small place can have its own national cinema because Hong Kong is tiny. It's a tiny place, and they had their own film industry. And it's the same thing. It's like Quebec up in Canada. You know, it's not. It's like just a part of Canada, and they got their own film industry that is just makes films for them. Yeah, so that was
Yeah.
kind of yeah.
Yeah, people don't realize the kind of history and culture, I guess you could say political history of certain regions of certain countries,
Mm,
like Hong Kong being kind of its own entity and all of the political things that go around that surround it. That's why when you specifically mention Hong Kong cinema, it is specific to Hong Kong. It's
mm,
their style, it's their culture. Oftentimes, it's their political themes are put in there that are specific to
yep.
Hong Kong. Same thing with Quebec. Quebec, French Canadian. Their films are oftentimes in French, whereas the rest of the country perhaps not. It's very specific to their culture. So that's an interesting kind of crossing there. Yeah, the Canadian being the United States, I'm learning so much about Canadian cinema through Canadian International Pictures, and I'm over here, so Don't feel like you're missing out
He's
because you're
close.
not.
He's close to Canada too. He's up there in the north. He's in the northeast, so he's
Yeah, I guess it's I don't I have no idea how many hours it is, but it's yeah, I am closer to Canada than Steven is.
yeah.
But I know people from Canada, talk with them and whatnot, and yeah, it's a different country with different
Mm,
set of laws and culture and all kinds of stuff, and their cinema is different in terms of just the way in which it's structured. Being funded by the government. I mean, we Steven talks about
Yeah.
Cronenberg all the time. His early films,
mm.
he just took money from them and like thought like they thought he was going to be making like educational pictures, and it turns out no, not really.
They are educational. They
They are
are.
educational in a
Everyone should
way.
be what they should be taught in schools. Damn it.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's great, man. It's such a this is such a fascinating, and it really makes me just talking to you for this hour just makes me really reappraise my thought process on reading subtitles now. Like I'm like,
Were you not a fan?
well, I was always a fan, but the importance level is so much more up now for me. Like I'm like, I have some releases in my collection that I have like multiple versions where I haven't gotten rid of. Like for instance, like I have the Police Story films from Eureka, but I also have the Police Story films from Criterion, and I'm like, kind of want to watch both, like one of compare the subtitles now. Like I kind of feel like I want to dig into it like a little bit because it's so fascinating. I want to see what the differences are. I want to sit down with a pen and paper and be like, okay, wait a second, he said something different here. So you're gonna see me like with two TVs and like play them at the same time and like try to figure out the differences just as fun. Let's see if I have
Was
time
it?
for that, Andrew.
I was saying, I was as if you had time for it. What is it? It's interesting that you make that comparison because sometimes that can change like the perspective of the movie or
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
perspective of a scene or perspective of a
I mean,
character.
it's almost like a how we've talked about like directors changing thing or changing their films years later, um,
Yeah, re-editing. Yeah.
re-editing things, taking lines out. Like it's like if something's translated differently in a different, version, different translation of the film, it's like that could change how you see the movie, how depending on the person. It's all a very subjective thing, and I want to, I'm a fan, man. I'm a fan that
Mm.
I'm more fascinated with this part of what we love. So keep doing what you're doing, man. I'm going to be getting all the stuff you got coming out soon. I'm
Thanks.
gonna be watching. I'm gonna be listening to your translations or reading your translations a lot coming up because I'm getting that Bruce Lee set, and
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm definitely getting. I get all the
You do
radiant
have you
stuff.
do have Exiled already.
I do have Exiled. So
Um,
Yeah. So I did the
yeah, is there
two. Well, I did the two Chameleon film. I did the Exiled and Breaking News. That was me. But with the Bruce Lee set, I only wrote something for that.
oh, okay,
For
okay,
yeah, I only wrote something for that, and Moment of Moment of Romance. I did the subtitles for that. So yeah,
cool, awesome,
yeah.
man. Well,
I don't.
um, I think let's wrap it up, man. I
yeah.
appreciate you coming on and spending time with us, talking about what you do, and if anybody ever wants to reach out to you to chat about film or even ask you to do some translations for them for comic books because I know you like doing comic book translation. Nah, but if anybody ever wants to reach out to you, what's the best place?
Well, I'm on Twitter a lot. That's just easiest. So you can hit me up
Yeah,
on that. Yeah, my username's Future Rhythm. I still use my old online handle because I'm not important enough to have my real name as my handle. That's how that's how I put it.
yeah,
It's like I mean, I'm just a guy. I don't care.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I care, yeah.
yeah. That's
But
probably the easiest way to get in touch with me. Yeah,
awesome,
and then
awesome,
we can
man.
take it from there.
Well,
That's how
awesome,
you
man.
guys found me.
Well, I got. I saw. I was like, dude, I'm going for it, man. Going for it. I'm just glad when anybody ever answers me. So, because Twitter is up and down. People might leave their messaging open, but sometimes they're like, I don't know them. Bye. They won't. They'll block me or something. But Dylan, thanks, man, and have a good rest of your day.
Dude, thanks for having me.
Welcome back, people. So that was a great conversation with Dylan Cheung. Thank you once again, Dylan, for joining us. And now let's move on to that thing we do. What's that thing we do?
For some reason that the song's now playing in my head
Oh,
from
sorry.
that thing you do.
Yeah,
Um,
sorry.
directed by Tom Hanks. I've always wanted that Blu-ray to add to my collection, but I heard it's just not a very good-looking
I have
Blu-ray,
it.
unfortunately. Oh, you have it.
Yeah, I do have it. It's
Yeah.
it's fine.
Okay, but
It has the
moving
movie on it.
yeah, moving on, we do have some things this week. This is the last full week of the month, the last full week of May. But when for our next episode, we should be into June. So this is kind of the last full stuff for the week, and we've got a couple of slates. But before we get to those things, and we do want to take a look at a couple of other things. I think first up for me is um, there was a couple of Shout Factory announcements early on in the week, kind of like the day after we recorded our last episode, which was our 100th episode, which was a great
Yes.
bonanza extravaganza. It was
Oh,
really
man.
fantastic. Um,
Yes.
and then the next day, Shout Factory was like, "Oh, here you go." So they have two, I think, uh, online exclusives straight from the Shout Factory store. First up is a movie called Another Country, which stars Rupert Everett and Colin Firth. And this is actually available right now to stream on HBO Max, or now as it's known, just Max, which
Mm.
not the
Get that
best thing
right.
I've ever
Get
heard.
that right, man.
Yeah, no, get
Max.
it right. As if Warner Brothers cares. But so this movie stars Rupert Everett, Colin Firth, and Carrie Elways. It's a moving coming of age tale. In a shabby apartment in Moscow, an American journalist asks a retired spy why he betrayed his country and defected to the USSR 50 years ago. Sounds interesting. This movie actually came out, I think, in 1984. So
Hmm.
I didn't know Colin Firth had acted that early on. So when I went to looking for it on like IMDb and on Letterboxd, I was looking for a more current film, but no, it's an older film. But this is limited to 1,500 copies from the Shout Factory store. I do want to give it a watch though on Max. I'm never gonna get used to that. Um,
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to. Yeah,
but
but
another
it.
one, yeah. But I would say
Yeah,
another
yeah.
one is this movie called Trouble in Mind, which stars Chris Christopherson, Keith Carradine, Laurie Singer, and Genevieve Wold. Joe Morton's in the film as well, who I think is a great character actor. I've always been a big fan of Joe Morton. It says Trouble in Mind is set somewhere in the future, mysterious, and the past is somewhere in the future and the past of countless classic film noirs, creating a completely realized neo noir masterpiece. That sounds interesting.
Mm.
Also limited to 1,500 copies, and yeah, I also wanted to watch that one as well, but didn't get a chance to. Um, I like the concept of it. The tagline is drugs, sex, crime. Rain City has it all. Here, everyone gets what they want or what they deserve. Jeez, it
Well,
says, yeah, damn,
they
that
threw
doesn't
they
scream
threw they
noir.
threw masterpiece on this, so
Yeah, I don't know.
you know.
Yeah, you got to sell it, I guess. But it says the lives of an ex-con, a coffee shop owner, and a young couple looking to make it rich intersect in the hypnotic Rain City. And this is available on Tubi. It's available on Plex. So it's available to watch.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
that seems like a watcher. I'm definitely gonna have to
it
check it
does
out.
seem like it does seem like a watcher to me. Oh, it's directed by Alan Rudolph, who directed the movie Mrs. Parker and the Vicious Circle, which we talked about last week.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
He also directed.
Every time I hear Mrs. Parker, though, I think of the movie Friday.
Oh
Miss
yeah,
Parker.
yeah, exactly. He also directed the movie Mortal Thoughts,
Oh, yeah.
which
That's
is
the
the
one.
movie with
It's
Demi
in the set.
Moore and
Yeah,
Bruce
it's in.
Willis, and it's part of one of those neo noir sets.
Yeah, yeah, it's
There's
in
the
the first one, I
connection.
believe. Yep.
But moving on from there,
Cool.
where else do we want to go? Let's go to
Let's,
Kino.
yeah, let's go to Kino.
Because Kino didn't have much going on this week, so we can just kind of go over it very quickly. First up here is the Anderson tapes is getting a release on July 25th. And the Anderson tapes, the reason why I'm bringing this up is it is a film directed by Sidney Lumet, starring Sean Connery and Diane Cannon, who was in the movie Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice. And she was also in the movie Seamus, which is also getting a release this week from Kino as well. But this movie is about someone who was a thief and he just gets out of prison, portrayed by Sean Connery. And he gets out of prison. And what do usually criminals do in these movies as soon as they get out of prison? They plan their next crime.
Yeah.
and and he decides he's going to rob this apartment building that his girlfriend uh portrayed by Diane Cannon, is living in because it's like a swanky apartment building with a bunch of like rich people who live in it, and he's just going to rob the whole place. So he's got to assemble a team. He's got to come up with a plan. He's got to do all these things. But there's some notable actors in here that pop up that are part of his team. A very young Christopher Walken is in the film. Do you know
Nice.
what his name is in this movie? His name is The Kid. That's how young he is in this
Mm.
movie.
It's hard to
This movie
imagine.
came out. Yeah, this came out in 1971. So this was obviously before Dare Hunter, before other films that he was in, much
Dead
later on.
Zone.
So he's super young. He's kind of
Yeah.
young, and he's in this film. And then Martin Balsam is also part of his crew. He's in this film, and um, Sean Connery's got to devise this plan, and of course, things get complicated. Things get complicated along the way. I won't get into that, but it's a fine film. It's for a movie that's trying to be this kind of thriller heist film, it doesn't quite have that energy to it that
Yeah.
kind of grips you and keeps you engaged the whole time. Luckily, the movie is only like an hour and 39 minutes, I think. So it's not that long of a film. It kind of moves relatively quickly, but it's not truly that captivating. Yeah, and this would be there would be better films to come along in Sidney Lumet's filmography. Um, even in that same decade, even in that same decade, he would just go on this monstrous run of just phenomenal films that just cemented him as this legendary director. I'm thinking of um, uh, Serpico, Murder on the Orient Express, Dog Day Afternoon, Network, stuff like that. Yeah, his filmography is kind of amazing. Even his
Yeah.
'60s work is damn good.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of The Pawnbroker. Um, which is a great film. But
Mm.
yeah, so that's that film.
And
Yeah,
I did lie. I did say I didn't have before the show. I told you I didn't have this, but I actually do have that indicator release.
you have the Indicator release.
I
Yeah,
do.
thank you for
Yeah.
bringing
Yeah.
that up because this was released by Indicator. I think back in 2020. I want to say maybe earlier.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and so it's been released by them. That was actually a region-free disc, which is kind of odd considering that it's now being put out by Kino here in the US. Maybe it was a rights exchange or whatever, but
Yeah.
yeah, that disc and this disc are virtually similar. They have, I believe, the same commentary track, and the Indicator disc has one other extra feature that's of importance. It has a 17-minute 8 millimeter version of the movie, like a truncated version of the movie, and it has a 24-page booklet that comes with the limited edition version of that, which is now out of print, and the standard one I think is still available. Maybe, not sure. Um, but that's kind of the only difference. So if you missed out on that and you don't really care about the couple little extra things, this disc is coming on the way in July. So look out for that. But yeah, so that's coming out July 25th, and then after that, we've got The Minus Man, which is getting a brand new 2K master, and this is a movie from 1999 starring Owen Wilson, Janine Garofalo, Brian Cox is in the film, Sheryl Crow, singer,
Yeah. Well,
artist, is in the film.
she's barely in the movie.
But okay, but she's written here, and written and directed by Hampton Fancher.
He was
Who,
the writer of the Blade Runner films.
yes,
Well,
yes, he
at
was.
least he wrote the first. He was a screenplay on the first Blade Runner, and then I believe he
I
might
think he
have
got
worked
credit for
on.
the second one.
He's one of the writers. I don't think he's the full writer because I believe Villeneuve was involved in the script as well. But um, I think he directed one of the shorts. You know, one of the shorts that they did leading up to the new one. I think he directed one of them shorts.
Okay,
Um,
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
um, but yeah, I did get a chance to watch this film. And it's about a kind of as the way they describe it is like an aim. He was an aim. Owen Wilson plays this like aimless guy who's kind of just decides to go on the road and just kind of have a walkabout of sorts. He doesn't know what he's going to do. He just goes out and starts driving around and finding things to do, finding work, place to stay. And as he does that, he just decides he wants to become a serial killer. There's no real talk about it, and there's no real build up to it. There's no like scenes of him killing animals or it's not like that kind of movie that a prototypical serial killer movie. It's very much he's playing. It's like Owen Wilson being Owen Wilson, and then you know, kind of a nice guy, kind of quirky, and then he suddenly decides he wants to start just finding certain people and killing them. Um, it's an odd movie. It is not what you expect. I thought this was going to kind of have that kind of sinister-ish kind of way about it that a lot of '90s movies had. Things like Seven, things. I thought it was going to have that feel of like a dark, kind of like an early movie from a prominent comedy actor. I think like Vince Vaughn in this time as well. Somebody that he worked with a lot later on. Um, they both have. Vince Vaughn had an early career of playing serious roles. And then he's kind of gone back to it recently. And I was like, wow, Owen Wilson doing a serious kind of role here. This is going to be interesting. And the movie I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's definitely trying to do something really different with this genre. That's the credit I give it. Like, it's not trying to be prototypical. What it is kind of maybe a little bit meandering. It just kind of has Owen Wilson kind of going through the motions
Mm,
as this guy who kind of doesn't know what to do with himself and has decided he wants to take it upon himself to kill certain people for, I guess, reasons he deems necessary. It's really kind of a hard movie to find what it's trying to say. Um, and it just seems like it's just there. Luckily, it is only like an hour and a half movie. Um, so it doesn't really feel like it's overstaying its welcome, but you're kind of so fascinated because you're kind of like trying to wait for something to happen and nothing really happens.
interesting. That's
It's
an
weird.
interesting
It's
approach.
a weird movie.
Um,
Uh,
I do want to say that this is the only movie that Fancher ever, yeah, that Hampton Fancher ever directed, and he wrote Blade Runner. And then he has credit, and then he did write those shorts, the screenplays, or did partake in writing the screenplays for those movies leading up, those short films
yeah,
around 2049, and he does have a credit on Blade Runner, um, 2049 as well. But I'm not sure if screenplay. Yeah, he has a co-screenplay credit on that as well,
yeah, yeah. It's a
and
fact.
story by.
It's one of them things. Is like I wouldn't not recommend it to people. I definitely would say watch it first if you can. I believe it was on Tubi. You might have to go on Tubi to search it because if you if you type it into your Roku search, it will not have it there as something you can find on Tubi. But if you go into Tubi and do Minus Man, it's there. It's weird because I have Roku, and so
Hmm.
I'll use the
Hmm.
search on Roku, and it'll tell me everywhere in my apps that it's at. But it didn't show Tubi when I did it that way. Then I went into Tubi and searched it, and it was there.
That's weird. Yeah, it is also
Yeah.
streaming on the Roku app in
Channel.
general. It's streaming on like Tubi, like Steven said, as well as Canopy if you have that
See,
available
I don't know.
through your local
It's you're
library.
gonna have to go into them apps and search
Yeah,
because
I just go
yeah.
straight to the apps. That's what I do.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I'm searching for things and I use the Roku search to tell me what I have and where I can find it. Like if any
Yeah,
of my apps
I know
have
what you
it.
mean.
But but yeah, it's kind of an interesting movie, but I don't know that it was successful in what it was trying to do. I'm not sure. I'd like to hear other people's opinions on it because it was a little meandering for me, but not terrible, not terrible. Um,
Okay,
but that's it for that. And then lastly, we have another noir set.
we
What
do.
XVI, which is if you know your Roman numerals, 16.
It is indeed.
So in number 16, film noir, The Dark Side of Cinema 16, we have three films again: The Mystery of Mary Rodgett, um, Chicago Deadline, and Iron Man. Oh wow, Iron Man is a noir. What the fuck?
What's going on?
Whoa.
What is interesting is that Chicago Deadline does star Alan Ladd and Donna Reed. That immediately piques my interest, and it looks like Rock Hudson is in Iron Man. Rock Hudson as Iron
It's
Man.
Iron
Why
Man.
not?
That'd be amazing.
That'd be incredible. Yeah, I'm just because this was announced early today. Yeah. That was announced early today. So there's 16 of these now. These are all getting brand new 2K masters. Um, Yeah, if you've been collecting these right along, there's another one for you. It
As I said last time, like this is getting a little bit overwhelming. I don't know. I'm not saying I've given up completely, but I'm getting close to feeling like this is so much to collect that I might just give up.
Somebody's feeling a little bit overwhelmed.
Yes.
They are coming at us fast and furious.
Yeah, I mean, it's just there's so much noir being announced, not only by Kino, but like we got that new world noir thing that shit, we got to talk about that too. We didn't
Oh,
even bring that up in
yeah,
our
we didn't
notes.
even have that on the rundown. Thank you for bringing that up.
I know, right?
I guess we know what we're talking about next. Whoa.
Well, technically, the thing about that is that the movies weren't really announced for them things
Right.
until we got help from another label to help with one of them announcements.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a very weird thing. We'll get to it.
we'll get back to it. I skewed us a little bit. We'll get back to that. But yeah, them three films. Of course, we haven't seen them, but there's more noir for you. There's nothing wrong with that. So, how about we go over to that Radiance thing since I
Y-
kind of almost transition.
Yes,
Yeah,
let us do it. So Radiance did announce that there are two new box sets on the horizon that are going to arrive in the autumn
later in the
slash
year.
winter later in the
Yeah,
year.
yeah, yeah.
They didn't give us any definitive the details on when that's going to happen, but they did show us some early conceptual box art as well as the titles of these boxes. The first one here is "The End of Civilization," 3 films by Piotr Zulkin, who is this Polish filmmaker. Um, we're kind of guessing on what maybe is in this box set, um, because as we'll get to later on, Vinegar Syndrome's releasing their own box set of this exact director, and
Yeah,
their box set is going to have 4 films, and
yeah,
I'm guessing 3 out of 4 of those films are going to be in this box set.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, so I don't know if we should. We'll probably wait until we get to that box set to announce what those are. Um, but they are releasing the other one called World Noir, which I no idea what it could be.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Which is what I was alluding to. Like we're now getting a what looks like a the first volume in a line of world noir sets. Um, Now coming from Radiance, and then we have the Indicator sets, which is kind of my favorite noir sets. In just an all around sense. And then you got Imprints got their noir sets, and dude, it's just a lot of noir.
Yeah, and what is interesting about the whole concept of film noir was actually coined by the French when it came to referencing the kind of post-war American films of the 40s.
Yeah,
That's what they kind of dubbed them as, and that's kind of what has been adopted as that era of American cinema is known as noir. So yeah, it's so where we're going to be going with that world noir, I have no idea. Is it going to
yeah,
be movies like is it gonna be like French films, Italian films, et cetera? Because I know
yeah,
Radiance does like to do a lot of Italian stuff. Um, I guess we will see. We will see, but those
yeah.
are
I'm
on the
excited.
horizon. And right now, Radiance is in the midst of just releasing stuff every month right now. So they're full on their way with their releases. So it's really, really great stuff. Um, but I guess we can move on to Second Sight.
Okay.
Second Sight had 2 releases that they are working on. First up is a movie called May from 2002, 2003, directed by Lucky McKee, starring Angela Bettis, Jeremy Sisto. Anna Faris is in this film.
Mm.
This was, I want to say this was around the time the first scary movie came out. Um,
Yeah, that
remember,
sounds about right. Yeah.
yeah, because I have the scary movie DVD. But let me make sure because I can't remember if it was 2000. Yeah, it was 2000. So it was about 2 years after that. So she is in this film, and what a unique film this is. So description: May, a socially awkward veterinary assistant with a lazy eye and an obsession with perfection, descends into depravity after developing a crush on a boy with perfect hands, or at least to her, they are perfect hands. Um, this movie is about a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's it's about obsession, it's about perfection, it's about social awkwardness. Um, Man, it's about a lot of things. I know we both got to see it, Steven, so I wanna get
Yeah.
your take on it as well.
Yeah, it's one of the movies that, I you can tell it's building towards something. Like, it spends a lot of time, you see the cover for this and, you're like, "Okay, this looks like it's gonna get a little bloody at some point," and you're waiting for that to happen, and then finally when things start to go downhill, it goes downhill quickly. Like, it's like yeah, it's a movie, yeah, that really deals with that, social awkwardness, deals with your own somebody's own self-worth. They're trying to, you know, find something to make them feel better about themselves. So they look at others to fill their holes in their lives.
Mm.
They May in this film, her only friend is this doll her mom gave her really early in
That
life.
she talks to,
Yeah,
like,
and
has full-on conversations with.
yeah,
And so it goes into kind of like a mental health aspect to the
it,
film
it
and
does.
the kind of degrading nature of that really, how one's kind of slowly slips further and further into some type of psychosis. And then when the glass breaks, very literally in the film, things
Yeah,
kind of things escalate very quickly into a dark, violent place. Yeah, I thought it was very well acted. It is a slower paced film. It's not quite a thriller, and it takes its while to get there. But that third act is quite
yeah,
jarring, quite
yeah.
jarring. Um, yeah, I thought it was fascinating film, and apparently I was one of the last people to see this movie because on my letterboxd, apparently everyone has seen the movie except for me. And yeah, it's a really, um, good. It's a solid kind of early 2000s psycho horror film. Um, yeah, and I there was a couple of people who worked on this release from Second Sight that I wanted to make mention of, and I accidentally exited out of the tab that had all the
Well,
information.
Alexandra Heller Nicholas does a
Yeah,
commentary on
she
it.
does. Yeah,
Um,
yes, she does. That's the main one that I wanted to talk about. There's actually 3 commentaries on this disc. She does a brand new one. The
yeah,
other 2 looks like they have, that are both have feature the director and both feature a bunch of people who worked on the film, including editor Ryan Johnson.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. This was about 3 years before his first directorial feature film would come out, Brick. He was the, um, editor on this film, and he actually posted about this release.
That's cool, man. Yeah,
Yeah, there's new
need to.
coming interviews in here with actors and, and the director, so this is another really looks like a really solid release from Second Sight. 70-page book, rigid slipcase, great artwork. This is what we're expecting from them. I think it's gonna be similar in size to The Guest. It's not gonna be quite as thick as, let's say, Drive,
I would say it's gonna be probably like, something like In Bruges. Like,
or
it's gonna be one of their
or
thinner
maybe
boxes.
even Martin. I
Yeah,
hope
I
that
mean,
Martin
yeah, Martin's
is
thinner. I
in it.
mean, it's yeah, yeah.
So it's gonna be of high quality, of course,
It's
but there
still gonna be high quality, but it's not gonna be like The Guest. The Guest's a little bit thicker than usual. It's definitely not gonna be like
oh,
Drive.
or Texas Chainsaw.
No, no, no. But it's one of their thinner ones, but they're still like hard boxes and
Very
and
solid,
it
very
look
compact.
really good.
But that's not the only one that they're releasing. They're releasing an edition in similar kind for the movie Frontiers. It's Frontier with the S in
That's how
parentheses.
it protect. Yeah, yeah,
Um, Yeah,
yeah.
so I've seen this film because this was announced a while ago, that this was coming, at least the release of this movie. So the description here is after a daring robbery goes wrong, the would-be criminals flee to the countryside to lay low. Deep in the rural heart of France, the group encounter a clan of crazed Nazi cannibals who are attempting to create the new master race. This movie is bananas because I remember watching it, and it came out in 2007, so it's right in that wheelhouse, Steven, of cannibal backwoods insanity that seemed to be all the rage in the 2000s, and it is very much in line with that. So that's kind of what Frontiers is about. And yeah, I watched it when it was announced, and this is what once again getting a bunch of special features, audio commentary, and a bunch of other things. 70-page book, rigid slipcase, 6 collector art cards. I think both this and May, I think, are Region B locked. That seems to be Second Sight's thing. So you're gonna have to have a region free player, I think, for both of these. But yeah,
All right.
because
Yeah,
I don't think you've seen Frontiers. No.
I have not. I have not, but I don't know. This is what Second Sight seems to do is they now the more I think about it, they seem to focus a lot on horror, more than I've ever thought about, they definitely have delved into different types of cinema, like I mean
Well,
like
Picnic
drive,
at Hanging Rock. Yeah.
yeah, drive, but you could also say that them movies have horror elements to them as well.
Yeah, I would even say,
Um,
yeah, Picnic at Hanging Rock is horrific in a different way, specifically, I guess, metaphorically. Um, but yeah, you're right. They also didn't they do
but they did do something like Tangerine,
mm,
and then they did In Bruges, and so but honestly, a lot of their filmography, I mean, I'm looking across at my section now, and you got Dawn of the Dead, you got Monster with Charlize Theron. The Guest is kind of a horror movie. Of course, like the Witch, Babadook, even like Nightingale, which is the other film by
yeah,
yeah,
by Jennifer Kent.
Jennifer Kent, yeah. So, and they did Raw. They did Raw. So it's a lot of. I never thought about them as being a horror label, but now that I'm looking at their list of movies, I'm like, they're kind of a horror label.
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
I didn't put these pieces
they
together
even
until you
did the
just said it.
Hammer horror stuff like or later last year. They had a couple Hammer horror movies. And I'm
Oh
like,
yes.
like I didn't think about it. I didn't put it together, but they mostly put out horror stuff. They did Boiling Point, which is like a chef movie, like so there's like randoms,
Oh yeah,
but
and Martin, of
in
course.
Martin's another horror, yeah.
I
I
think they
mean,
did like a version of Reanimator, an edition of
they're
Reanimator.
gonna they're gonna put out Hitcher, like you
Yeah,
know, it,
yeah, and
yeah,
then yeah they did. Looks like they did an edition of the movie Swallow, Dog Soldiers,
yeah. Dog Soldiers is another one. It's
The
the
Invitation,
most
and
of what they put. I mean, they did Upgrade, which is like a sci-fi
yeah,
horror in a way. Like they mostly do genre stuff, but it's like seems to surround horror. So I never thought about that. Now I'm only going to think that.
yeah, way to go, way to go.
Great.
But yeah, that's the second side stuff, and I guess now we can move into more Slatish type stuff.
Sure. Let's do
Yeah, what?
Eureka.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was gonna go. Eureka, because Eureka only had two. Only
Yeah.
had two. Um, and what were the two that they had, Steven? Do you have that up?
Well, we have first we have it looks like another like a Hong Kong film, I believe, and it's called The Skyhawk. And then we also have it looks like a Buster Keaton film called Three Ages. And of course, Eureka's done some Buster Keaton in the past. Um, so this is just more to add to that. I know you saw Three Ages.
I did see Three Ages. Yeah, it's actually I think Buster Keaton's first feature length film that he acted and directed, written all that kind of stuff, and it was kind of a big testing ground to see if he could do more than just doing shorts. Because I think up until that point, which I think this movie came out in 1923, he was only doing short films and was being very successful at it, and now he with the success of this film, he went on to then do other feature films as well. But the plot of this film is fascinating because it's rather experimental. It's the first, yeah, like I said, it's the first feature that he wrote, directed, and starred in, and the film is set across three eras, time eras, historic eras: the Stone Age, ancient Rome, and modern times. The modern times being the 1920s, or in this case, the early 1920s, in which Buster Keaton plays the same character in each one, well, the same version of the character in each one, where he's competing for the love of a woman, the woman portrayed by Margaret Leahy, I believe, whilst he has to kind of conquer or overcome this kind of more brutish looking uh, guy and portrayed by Wallace Berry. And in every single time, they're in competition with one another for the love of this woman. And what he's trying to say is this: he's trying to, say that this idea that throughout the ages, men have always like loved women and wanted to, you know, be with women. Like, you know what I mean? Like, kind of those things,
Sure.
those
Yeah.
ideas. And they've always wanted to compete with other men for women. You know what I mean? All this kind of stuff. I know in more modern times, you could extrapolate all that and say anything about it you want. It's just this interesting this idea that he's going with. But what is most fascinating about the movie is the way in which it's structured. Is it's not structured in an anthological way where you get like, okay, first act is Stone Age, second act is Roman Age, third act is Modern Age. No, he intercuts all of the ages throughout one another to connect with one another throughout the running time of this movie. And the running time of this movie is actually only, I want to say, an hour and yeah, an hour, like it's like an hour and something minutes. It's not that long. Um, so it's fascinating because he does so much in such a short amount of time. Um, that I don't that it's kind of amazing how he's able to pull this off as successfully as he did. Yeah, the movie is an hour and 3 minutes long. I have no idea in my mind why why Blu-ray.com lists the runtime of this movie as 110 minutes, because it's not. I have no idea why. Baffling. But the movie is like an hour and 3 minutes long, and he does so much within it. And yeah, you get all of the great Buster Keatonisms. There's action sequences, there's a lot of movement, everything is constantly flowing. You get all of the great things that you expect from a Buster Keaton film in this movie, Three Ages. I was actually wondering if this was part of the Coen Brothers collection sets that they were putting out. They put out actually 4 of these, and they haven't put out any more for a number of years. I'm not sure why. I know Coen is now kind of a sub-label of Kino, because their titles always show up in all the Kino sales that Kino keeps having. And I was wondering if they were going to release any more, but it looks like the restoration that was used for this, released by Eureka, is from the Cohen Film Collection from 2022. So does that mean that Cohen's going to put out their own release of this soon? I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see. But this actually does have quite a few special features, audio commentary by a film historian. It's got a video. It's got 2 video essays on here. It's got yeah, it's got so much stuff. It's got interviews, and of course the restoration of it. I'm fascinated by how good it looks. Um, yeah, so this is, if you're a Buster Keaton fan and you've been a fan of these Eureka releases, this is for you. The other films, The Skyhawk, I think this is a Golden Harvest film. Um, and I don't know what's going to happen, because it seems like every time Eureka puts out a Golden Harvest film or a film that is a martial arts film of this era, Arrow puts it out
Yeah.
right afterward. So I don't know when this is gonna happen. It could be a year, could be 2, could be 6 months. Who knows? But this could
I'm
get an
half
Arrow release
expecting Arrow to
tomorrow.
start putting out a Golden Harvest
Box
box
set?
set.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised, but yeah, this came out in 1974, and this is the first time this is actually getting a Blu-ray release in the UK, or even for this kind of market here. I think the only other Blu-ray release of this, I think maybe actually is in China. And that's it. So this is getting a new 2K restoration of the Hong Kong cut of the film. Um, it's from the same director, Zhang Chihua, who directed Kickboxer. Um, so yeah, I didn't get a chance to see it. I couldn't track this movie down actually to see it, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, these are the
Cool.
August releases, by the way.
Awesome. All right. Well, where do you want to go next? Do you want to go to Vinegar Syndrome, or you want to go
Well,
to?
I guess if you want to stick with Arrow, since they're so closely related.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. So Arrow gave us a good little mixture of things here. We'll start with the box set, which I think has been kind of we kind of figured this was eventually going to come in. Our friend Scott Saslow kind of teased us that this would have been, because he does do graphic design on work on this set here, and that is our third volume of the 4 noir classics sets from Arrow. This one has the films. Let me find the thing here. Um, Calcutta from 1946. Um, we have. Oh, why is this so? They don't have a listing of the movies. You got
Hold
a
on.
listing?
Hold on.
Ride
I'm
the pink
going.
horses, Outside the Law, and The Female Animal. Are the
Those
four
are all of
films.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is very good. Where are you looking at? You looking at it on Blu-ray.com?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
I had to,
terrible. It's
yeah,
terrible.
it's a
It's
paragraph.
2 paragraphs and, like, all the lettering looks exactly the same. Nothing sticks out in any way.
I just
Um,
went to that first line of special features where it said these are the high definitions and of all these movies.
Good
And there's
idea.
four movies.
Yeah,
So
there's 4 movies in here. Yeah, we did our friend Scott Saslow did do I think he did the book design and layout design of this. Because he worked on the other 2, I think, or at least the previous one.
I believe so. Yeah.
And so, yeah, he worked on this, but also someone whom I've been following on Twitter for many, many years. Nora McIntyre, she wrote the essay for The Female Animal. And so I thought that was important to kind of bring that out just because it's another connection that I wasn't expecting that I have to some of these releases. So yeah, this is another one.
There's two of the people we know already. Alexandra Helen Nicholas and Kat Ellinger both do new visual essays on a couple of the, Ride the Pink Horses and Female Animal. Alexandra does video essays on that, and Kat Ellinger does one for Outside the Law. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yes, she does. So it's yeah, it's a nice little set filled with kind of I wouldn't say yeah, I would say B noir films, but what is interesting is I guess the highlight of that release set, or at least the one that kind of sticks out to me the most, is Ride the Pink Horse, which
yeah.
because Ride the Pink Horse has a Blu-ray release from Criterion from many, many years ago, that I have in my collection, and Ride the Pink Horse starring and directed by Robert Montgomery, written by Ben Hecht, who did a lot of film noir writing back in the day. This is a film noir that was, I think, maybe not one of the first ones, but it's not set in an urban setting. It's not Los Angeles. It's not New York. It's not Chicago. It's not any fictional urban setting. It's set on a border town in New Mexico. So yeah, so the premise of that film is World War II veteran Lucky Gagan arrives in a New Mexico border town intent on revenging against mobster Frank Hugo, but FBI agent Bill Retz, who also wants Hugo, tries to keep Gagan out of trouble. Yeah, so if you have this on Criterion already, you've obviously seen it and you know of its quality. Yeah, Robert Montgomery was kind of one of the earlier actor director dual role types of things. So yeah, that's really good, and I actually got to watch all of these at one point. So Calcutta is another one that I got to see. This one's starring Alan Ladd, and this movie's kind of it's okay. It's not great. So Alan Ladd is, I think he's a pilot in this film, and he and William Bendix are both like pilots and co-pilots, and they fly like supplies between Chungking and Calcutta, obviously in Asia. But one of their buddies is murdered, and they decide to take it upon themselves to investigate this murder. And then it's them trying to figure out why he was murdered, how he was murdered. He had a fiance as well, so how was she entangled in all of this? You get some red herrings, and you find other deeper plots and whatnot. It's fine. Directed by John Farrow, and I think John Farrow directed oh, what's that other film that actually just got? No, he directed The Big Clock, Around the World in 80 Days. I thought he directed that other film that Scorsese really likes. Maybe I'm just forgetting.
Sniper.
Um,
Is it the Sniper?
Not Five Came Back. I'll think about it obviously later. Maybe he didn't. Um, did he direct that? The movie you were just talking about?
The Sniper.
Yeah,
I think so. Let me make sure.
he directed Alias, Nick Beale, Where Danger Lives. So you can kind of see he's a pretty common film noir director. Um, but I was thinking of Force of Evil. That's the movie I'm thinking of, and I don't think he
Okay,
directed Force of
Edward
Evil.
Dmytryk did the Sniper. Never mind.
Okay, yeah, he didn't direct Force of Evil. No, he didn't direct Force of Evil. For some reason, I thought he did, but that stars John Garfield. No. Anywho, But then the other film is The Female Animal, which I actually saw recently randomly on, I want to say, Criterion Channel. I think maybe there was a Hedy Lamarr collection or something like that, and I would just want to watch more Hedy Lamarr films. Um, and so the premise of this film, according to IMDb, is an aging film star and her alcoholic daughter compete for a handsome extra, and that's the female animal. Um, yeah, Hedy Lamarr, Jane Powell. Um, yeah, actually, and I did actually really like this film. It's good. I love Hedy Lamarr. Um, an absolute genius of a person. Without her, we wouldn't have Wi-Fi right now, and we wouldn't have the internet. Um, but moving on from there, I did get to see the last film. And why am I blanking on what the last film is, Steven?
Oh man,
Outside the Law. Yeah,
outside the law.
outside the law. Because you know what? Sometimes you just have to be outside the law. You have to operate outside the law.
Who wants
Uh,
to be inside the law?
yeah, honestly, and also, uh, this is another movie that deals with like counterfeiting. And I didn't realize how big of a problem counterfeiting was. I don't know if it's still a problem today. I know like bootlegging and making like fake, um, like fake products and stuff like that is a bit of an issue and whatnot. But I didn't realize that counterfeiting money was also a big issue as well. And it's something that I don't know. It seems a little outdated to me, but but the premise of this is an ex-con is given the chance to redeem himself and revenge the murder of an old army buddy by going undercover in Germany and helping the authorities break up a ring of international counterfeiters who will stop at nothing, including murder, to protect their operation. This is directed by Jack Arnold, who's another kind of uh, career director. He directed like Creature from the Black Lagoon, It Came from Outer Space, The Incredible Shrinking Man. He directed films like that. Uh, but yeah, that's that film noir box set. It's a decent package there, but if you got some of these already, you may not need this set specifically. But moving on from that set, we've got some other things here, Stephen, don't we?
Yeah, a few things. I'll go ahead and bring up the one that I haven't seen, but unfortunately, because I'm who I am, and I collect too many things, I haven't watched it yet. But I already own it, and that's the new Fist of Fury, starring Jackie Chan. Um, it does already have a 88 films release,
It does.
and
Um,
that's the one I own, and and I haven't watched it yet. But I mean, this is an opportunity, I guess, to get it again. I didn't look to see if this was. It would be weird if this is only region B because unless they like lost. No, it's
this
US
is actually
US.
Region A.
Yeah, yeah. So this is their a region A version for people in the
Yeah,
states
because
and in
88
Canada.
has the rights in.
Yeah,
And this is another, I believe, Golden Harvest movie that we were just talking about this,
yeah,
where 88 had put it out, and now Arrow's putting it out here in the States. And this is getting new 2K restoration from the original camera negative. Now, this release is interesting. One, you're getting the same cuts of the film that you got on that 88 release, 120-minute theatrical cut, and there's an 82-minute or recut from 1980 that came out. Damn, that's a lot of stuff to cut. But
yeah.
this is getting a couple of new features that aren't on that 88 one. It's got a new commentary and um it's got a new like video essay, and I think those are the main two things that are the difference. Because I'm looking at the new Fist of Fury one um from 88, and it doesn't have that video essay, and I'm not sure if I think it has different commentaries. Let's see. Asian expert Mergen Bentley. Let's see. Yeah,
We also
it's got different commentaries.
yeah. We also got a note. Of course, Tony Stella did the artwork on this, and of course, and now that we've done this episode with Dylan, this does have new translated optional English subtitles. So we got to make sure we're bringing that up. It's in now that we know how important it is.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
know. Ironically,
now
ironically.
that we've really digged into translation, like it's like now I'm going to think about that all the time now. Um,
Yeah,
but
I'm just looking
yeah,
at these commentary things again. I think it's got the same. It's got one of the same commentaries, but then Each of them has a different commentary. It's very confusing. Even looking at these side by side is very confusing. This stuff drives me nuts. When one company releases the same movie and you're trying to pick out the like which one do you want or which one's the better release, and you just don't, you can't figure it out. Wraps my brain.
Mm.
But that's New Fist of Fury.
It,
Um,
it is considered like
it's one of
a
the Bruce Lee
oh, they can
knockoff.
people. It's not
Yeah,
really a sequel, but it's kind of in circles considered it a sequel to Fist of Fury.
yeah. It says
Yeah,
it here. Considered to be one of the few, in quotes, official sequels to a Bruce Lee film. um, a new Fist of Fury, but apparently there was a Fist of Fury 2, which is also kind of billed as a sequel to Fist of Fury. Very
yeah,
confusing.
yeah.
Very confusing. And apparently this one came out like 5 years after Fist of Fury. Um,
Hmm. But
uh, but yeah, but another film that we got to see was Unman, Wittering, and Zygo. Or Zygo. Probably Zygo. We both got to see this film.
mm,
Um,
yep,
what an interesting movie,
I liked it.
Steven. I
I
liked
loved.
it as well. So for those of you who don't know what this movie is about, this is a British film from the 1970s. And the premise of this film is that this teacher takes over a job for this previous teacher who died while on the job, or while he was this teacher at this kind of, I guess you could say, prestigious boarding school, all boys school. They call it here the Chantry School for Boys, and come to find out, or at least believe to be find out, is that it, the previous teacher's students may have killed him, and they keep teasing this new teacher that they did it, and they keep teasing him over and over and over again and kind of just torturing him with the idea that they had done it, and it escalates and escalates. um and it's very interesting
Yeah,
from that perspective.
it is. Yeah, it's one of them things where it's one of them things where it's like you're like hanging out with your friends and you're like, hey, what if this happened? Like what? Like some scenario that seems like so impossible. Like you're just like you bring up impossible scenarios and you're like, but that would never happen. Just thinking about the scenario that you're a teacher and you're all alone in a room full of young adults. That really, if they all decided that they all decided that they wanted to kill you, they could. Like if you could get if all of them could agree on doing something together, they really could. And that I think that's what the movie kind of speaks to a lot is one of the things it kind of speaks to is that that unruly mob, that mob mentality thing. Um, and that if enough people believe in one thing, they can get things done.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
also, I think, maybe a social commentary on young male, not even toxicity, but young male privilege, in
oh,
the
dad, yeah,
sense that, like, all these kids are very boastful, very overconfident, very egotistical, and they almost like, because they're so naive to the world, they don't understand consequences of actions, you know what
yeah,
I mean? Oh, grave consequences or large withstanding consequences of their actions. They're only kind of living in the moment because they're children, they're sheltered, they live in a specific lane, if you will. They haven't been exposed to the outside world yet. And the film is playing on that level, I think, a lot, especially as the movie goes on and the boys get more and more daring in their actions and whatnot. And yeah, it's an interesting film. Yet again, another shorter film that really gets to the point. The movie's about 102 minutes long. Um, really liked it. I really
yeah.
liked it. It's good. And
Yeah,
I
it's
had
one
never
I'm
heard of it.
definitely I'd never heard of it either, and I'm definitely it's a pickup for me. I'm definitely gonna look to try to get this as soon as I can.
Right.
Um,
And then these last three announcements here are actually all upgrades. Two of them are upgrades, I think, to releases already from Arrow.
you mean last two announcements?
No, there's three here.
Two different movies?
No, there's three movies.
What's the third movie? I see Weird Science and Last House on the Left.
I also see Time Bandits.
Oh yeah, well, it's not on this press release I have here.
Where are you,
Left.
Steven? What world are you
I'm
living
on
in?
Blu-ray.com, and it's the August
So am I.
releases. Yeah,
So am
on the
I.
August
It's
release,
yeah. It's right. Time Bandits is right before.
I could take a picture of this right now, and it doesn't have a
Do it.
picture of it.
I'm on. It's right above four noir classics, Volume 3,
All right, watch. We're gonna do this in
in real
camera.
time.
Yeah,
Nice. This is
I'm gonna do it.
great podcasting,
I
by the
know,
way.
right? It's
Fantastic.
yeah,
I do wanna, yeah, while Steven is blackmailing me or whatever he's doing, proving a point, uh, we are getting a 4K UHD upgrade of Weird Science. They have yeah, I just got the notification from Steven himself.
yeah.
Um, it but this is a 4K UHD upgrade of a Blu-ray that they already put out years ago, and I know many people who have already bought that Blu-ray, specifically when it came to 50% off Barnes& and Noble Arrow sales, that don't get the hype that the Criterion sales get. I know a lot of people bought Weird Science because I know my store probably still has a copy of Weird Science there to be bought. But this is that release just in the 4K UHD version. I never bought that Blu-ray, and I kind of always wanted to. So I may get this one eventually, maybe at one of those sales. I don't know. What
Yeah.
do you feel about the movie Weird Science? Do you like it?
I like it. I mean,
It's very much of its time,
it is
the
of its time.
concept and
I,
execution and everything.
I think I think people for a couple different reasons will look at this movie as problematic. Not only
That's what I meant
because
of its time. Yeah.
not only because John Hughes, of course, is looked at as very differently than he was many if some years back ago. I think obviously there's been more brought up about things that happened during his time that people seem to frown on him now. But also, this movie's concept is very much the male fantasy.
Oh, yeah. It's a
The
teenage
way
boy's fantasy.
it is
Yeah.
the to the T. Like it's the most unrelenting teenage fantasy movie I've ever seen. And honestly, to the point where you have two teenage boys actually making out with a 20-something-year-old girl.
Yeah.
I mean, that it's
Even the whole premise of the movie, for those of you who've never seen Weird Science, and I only saw it myself, I think within the last 10 years, these two young teenage boys who are kind of like, I guess you could say, losers at their school and whatnot. They kind of outcasts. They decide that through their scientific wisdom, they're going to create their own perfect woman. Um,
yeah.
and they do. and they be and it's Anthony Michael Hall. Kelly LeBrock is the woman that they create. Um, it yeah, the movie was written and directed by John Hughes, and yeah, it's very much of its
Like
time.
it's
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 absurd,
definitely
you know.
it's so absurd. Like the technology. I love all like technology translated in this time because it's so stupid. Makes no sense. But it is fun, and yes,
The yeah,
it
the
is
late
unrelenting kid fantasy
yeah,
like wet
sophomoric.
dream.
Yeah,
Yeah, and to be honest, as much as it's problematic, you have to give it some props. But because grown men made this, it's like a little weird. But you do have to give the movie props that it's actually being truthful because this is how kids are. The young people,
Y-
the hormones, this
yeah.
is
I
the
would
things
even
they're thinking
say,
about,
yeah. If
like
anything, if you want to kind of take it from that perspective, just look at it from a contemporary standpoint of how it's looking at adolescent young men.
yeah,
They're kind of very much still the same in the exploration, in the unbridled exploration of sexuality and things like that.
yeah,
And if anything, today they're exposed more so than ever before because of
oh
the
yeah,
internet age and the way our culture and society is now, and completely different from someone growing up pre-internet age, the 1980s, 1990s, where in order to kind of explore your newfound sexuality and things like that, things had to be a little more different. You kind of had to, I wouldn't say work for it, but just there weren't as many outlets in which to do that in. And it kind of just shows the ridiculousness in the outlet in which they decide to go with in creating their own, perfect woman, if you will.
yeah. But even though there's them elements that would be problematic, I still think it is a it's got its moments of heart. It's got its moments of kind of like weird. You do get um Bill Paxton in this film as
Yeah,
well.
he's the
He played
older brother who treats his younger brother like crap.
yeah,
Um,
and there's some fun, really just bonker scenes in this movie of like the computer, there was they try to create another woman in the film, and then it really sets off this like weird series of events at this house party they're having, and so even though it's got its problematicness, I still think it's a pretty fun movie. And this might be one I pick up eventually. I don't know if I'll pick it up right away, but it is a fun movie. Um, so yeah,
what? Yeah. To get back to what you were just saying about all not all that, but back to when they do actually not show a picture of Time Bandits on the Blu-ray.com press release of the
I
movie.
scrolled down in the infos there.
The
I
info's
found the
there, but
info.
the picture of it is not there. You know,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
have the little like thumbnails of all the releases. You're right, it's not there, but it is
yeah.
there in actuality. Weird.
It's
It's a
weird.
little
Yeah,
overlook on their part. But moving on from weird science, um, yeah, we do have another 4K release, but I don't believe it's of a Blu-ray that they had put out before, and that is The Last House on the Left,
yeah.
not the Wes Craven film from 1972. This is the 2009 remake.
Yeah, I was confused because initially I thought it was like one of their re-releases and then I looked further and I was like, well, the artwork's different, so I don't think they just, how they are, they're not putting new artwork out. So I was like, well, this must be the remake then. So it was, and I was like, oh, well, I've seen the movie, but I hadn't seen it in a long time. So I rewatched it,
I
and
d I watch you wanna hear something bananas? Maybe not a little bananas, but this happens to many people. I bought this movie at Best Buy probably circa 2011, maybe, when they were having a sale. It was like to buy 2 Blu-rays for $15 or something like that, and they had, like, this list of ones you had to buy from, and this was one of them. It has sat on my shelf for 12 years, never watched it until for this episode.
wow,
You know? And,
for this moment,
and I'm just kind of I think it was 2011, maybe 2012. Either way, it's probably been over a decade. I've of this movie sitting on my shelf and never watched until now.
mm,
And I've got the old Universal Blu-ray that they probably put out in like 2009, 2010 when the movie came out. Um, yeah, yet again, this is part of the 2000s remake of classic horror films that they just love to do. And it's not a bad remake.
it's not.
For
No.
setting it in modern time and doing what they did with it, it's fine. You know, it does
Uh,
exactly what its
yeah,
premise suggests. You
I
know,
think the movie goes to the places, where it's difficult. I think, they have some difficult scenes. We know that the Wes Craven film is known for its, going, the rape scene and like just
yeah.
it's a very graphic movie. And then this movie takes it to them places as well. And I think what is interesting about this movie is that the cast is so amazing. Um, you got
In
some really
hindsight,
amazing, yeah. I mean, hindsight, now you're looking back and you're like, wow, so you're three kind of bad or at least two. I'm not sure of the female actress's name. I know I've seen her in
well,
other
I know. Yeah, I
things.
know exactly who she is. That's why I was
Um,
surprised it was her.
yeah,
Um, so you've got Garrett Dillahunt, who is a great actor. Really, he's
yeah, yeah,
mostly known for television stuff. He was in Deadwood. He was in I don't know if you remember Sarah Connor,
yeah,
the
yeah,
Sarah Connor Chronicles, Terminator. He's in No Country for Old Men. He was in that sitcom Raising Hope. He's in the movie 12 Years a Slave.
yeah.
He's just a great character actor, both on television and in movies. And a little known actor, Aaron Paul, is one
Yeah,
of the bad guys in this from
yep.
Breaking Bad.
And the
Um,
other guy, the first guy you said, he's the dad. He's the dad in the movie.
yes, yes, he
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And
eh,
then the Sarah was it Sarah Paxton plays the or who's the one that plays the mom? Is
you're
that
talking about no, Garrett Dillahunt plays the bad guy. He plays the main bad guy.
that's not the main bad guy, the actor?
Yeah, Garrett Dillahunt. Yeah, he is
Is that who that
the one
is?
who tortures the. Yeah,
Oh, is that his name?
yeah.
He looks like another actor that I'm thinking about.
No, no, the guy who plays the dad is Tony Goldwyn. Tony Goldwyn is
Okay.
another character actor who's been in probably many more things than um people probably recognize him in. He's been in movies like The Last Samurai, Ghost, The Mechanic, the one with Jason Statham. He was just in the Adam Sandler movie Murder Mystery 2 on Netflix. He's in the movie Plane with
You know who I thought
yeah.
that actor was in my mind?
Oh,
Josh Duhamel. Josh
that's
Duhamel.
exactly who I thought too. And I was like, that's not Josh Duhamel, is it?
You
It's
know, they
either
look almost exactly alike.
it's like Josh
Um,
Duhamel, Timothy Olyphant all play kind of these similar roles, and they all look similar. Um,
but now that I know it's not him, then they don't look. I mean, they don't. I mean, they do, but they don't look the same. So, like,
yeah, I
yeah,
got you. But
yeah,
yeah, but Garrett Dillahunt's the main kind of bad guy in the movie.
and
It's
he's good. He's good. He's
yeah,
good. Yeah,
he's really good. It's him, Aaron Paul, and then Ricky Lindholm. Ricky Lindholm, um, she's an actress, but mostly I've known her as a comedian. Um, she was she's been in a lot of stuff as well. Heck, she was in Knives Out. I mean, she's been in a lot of things.
yeah,
Um, yeah, she's been in many different things. If you just check out her IMDb, a lot of TV, a lot of some movie stuff, mostly maybe internet short stuff and whatnot, stuff like that. Um, yeah, and then um, who else is in this film? So Sarah Paxton plays the young girl who gets
yeah.
victimized in this film, and her parents are Tony Goldwyn and Monica Potter. Monica Potter, I
Monica
know
Potter. Yeah,
from being in
she's fucking Con Air.
she wasn't kinda she's also in the movie Along Came a Spider, she's in Patch
Yeah,
Adams.
yep.
I know her from the television series Parenthood, she was really great in that show. But yeah, this is of all of the kind of, like, classic horror remakes, this one is
I think it's
good.
overlooked a little
It's
bit.
fine. You know, it does exactly the exact same premise, just in a more modern setting. The modern setting being 2009. How jarring was it for you, Steven, to see some of those cell phones in this film? Like,
I,
good goodness, not a smartphone in sight.
Jesus
They
Christ!
were using, like, those old tiny Motorola's with the number with the little keypad on them and what. I'm like, "This is so
And
ancient
you
right
knew
now."
this, and you know them losing signal. You'd be like, okay, I get it. Because like at the time that like
They
getting
weren't as many
signals
cell
was
phone towers as there are now.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, the 2000s were a different time for cell phones.
Um,
BlackBerry ruled the
yeah,
world. BlackBerry,
yeah.
Nokia, the smartphone. The smartphone I don't think came out until 2007. I mean, it's really it's not that long ago, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, and then the whole smartphone, you know, generation kind of kicked off from there. But this is not a not a
No.
bad remake.
The
For what comes to just details on this, it is restored in 4K. Um, we do have an introduction by the director. There's a brand new commentary. There's all kinds of new stuff on here because that original Blu-ray had nothing on it in terms of special
yeah.
features, really nothing. So this is a massive upgrade when it comes to just the special features package, all new stuff. And you do get the unrated version on Blu-ray.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
because
mean,
it was
yeah,
part of that time, the 2000s, where every horror film, every time it came out on DVD or Blu-ray, there would be the theatrical cut and then the unrated cut.
yeah.
It's like the never before seen, too
I,
shocking for
you know,
theaters.
yeah. I'll take the Texas Chainsaw remake that happened with Jessica Biel. I'll take that one if they should do that one too. Um,
Yeah, I mean,
I'll
might as
take that
well.
one. Um,
Um,
but
but
the friend in the movie is somebody I recognize as well. She was in
uh, she was
Superbad.
yeah, she is. She's the
Martha
McClaskey?
McClaskey? Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, she was in this film as well. She's actually still acting, but she's mostly obviously known for um being the object of McLovin's desire in
Yeah.
Superbad. Um,
She has one of the best lines in the movie. She's like, "I give you a blowjob with my mouth."
oh, Superbad, what a another
I
coming of
love
age
that
film.
movie. God, I love
Uh,
that movie.
yeah,
Uh,
was that Greg Mato yeah, she was also in the movie Battle of the Sexes, which, no one saw except for me.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, that was um, Emma
No,
Stone
I saw the movie with Steve Carell. Yeah.
Emma Stone and Steve Carell. I went to the movie theaters opening night to see that movie, and no one was there. It was Thursday night. They didn't
Yeah,
even, you know how they have the curtains that cover the screen when
sure.
theaters are
Some
closed?
places have
They
that.
didn't
Yeah.
even open those. I had to go and tell them to open it
Well,
for me because no
I
one was there.
the movie was okay. I
Uh,
remember
I
thinking it
liked
was
it.
okay. I know you
Um,
liked it.
but yeah, so that's that, and then there's one more here being Time Bandits, and this is yet
Which,
again.
do we need to talk about? No, I'm just kidding.
I
Uh,
mean, it is, yeah, it is an upgrade. I think it's a 4K UHD upgrade of their Blu-ray already, right?
yeah,
I believe
yeah.
they've put this out on Blu-ray, or have they?
I think I
I'm
believe
there's been
so.
so much Terry Gilliam right now coming out, re-release, that I don't remember who's put out
I
what.
believe they have, just like Leaving Las Vegas, that they've done. Like I think they had their own version, a Region B
They
version.
did. Well,
Yeah,
they put out Time Bandits actually in 2013. Arrow did. So this is a long awaiting upgrade for them.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So then that's it for Arrow. I did, although I do want to say one more thing when it comes to Arrow, if I could find it. Um, they so they just remember that giant box set that they just put out.
You talking about you talked about the one that's coming out, or the one that, or something
The
that's
Arrow
already.
video.
You're talking about, yeah. It's getting an exclusive at a festival somewhere, right? Is that
Yeah,
what you're
it's
talking
at a
about?
convention, and they've posted pictures of it, and that set is massive in size. Um, when it comes to just its genuine size compared to the Shawscope sets and stuff like that. And I just want to say, if you go to Arrow's um, Facebook page, you can see pictures of it right now, and they have it literally like side by side on a table with the Shawscope stuff, and it's like three of those Shawscope sets like lined up together in terms of its thickness. So
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
massive set, and there was a bunch of movies in that box set. Um, what was the name of that set, Steven? Do you remember?
It, shit. Arrow Video.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Arrow.
I don't know.
Yeah, my computer's acting really slow. Yeah, when I type in Arrow Video, all they give me is all of the um all of the Arrow Video releases.
Enter
But
the is like isn't it like enter the video store, something something something.
Enter the Video Store, yes, Empire of Screams.
Yeah, there
That's
you
what it
go.
is. It's got the Dungeon Master, Dolls, Cellar Dweller, Arena, Robot Jocks, 5 movies, but the set, it comes with tons of swag, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
But I'm just saying, like, that's going all out. For
it's
those of you who pre-ordered it,
yeah.
you're gonna get a big set. Get some shelf space ready.
I'm going to pre-order it. I'm just waiting for my opening, probably here in the next few weeks. When it comes to like making sure I pay off some things.
Gotcha.
But I that and maybe a couple other things from that month, I might go
Yeah.
ahead and pre-order from Orbit.
Yeah,
So,
and I understand why
uh,
you're saying that, Stephen. Because as we're about to segue into something, it's kind of taking a big bite out of our finances and probably the
oh man,
finances of
I
people
I know
listening.
what you're talking about, and I hate to ruin it because I wanted to bring up one thing before we
Oh,
went
that
to
was the
that.
transition of the
I
century.
I
Uh,
know, I know. I'm sorry, bud, man. Sometimes it happens. We wanted to bring up the Treasured Films pre-order. Has Santa's Little Helper getting a
I think
pre-order?
Satan's Little Helper.
Or I said Santa's.
You said that
Satan's.
during our interview with them as well. That's
Did I?
upcoming. Yeah. I didn't correct
Wow.
you then, and I shouldn't have corrected you now.
Somebody should have corrected me.
I just
Jesus
let you roll
Christ.
with it. Because it sounds even
Satan's.
funnier. Because if you look at the artwork of it and you say
Yeah.
Santa's Little Helper, it's
Yeah.
even more,
He looks
like,
just like Santa.
crazy. Yeah, he looks just like Santa if
Yeah.
Santa was from hell. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that is, um yeah,
Yeah. Satan's Little Helper, Treasured Films.
yes.
They put up a pre-order for their for that release. So please go over to their site and put in an order, man. All right. So
Okay,
yeah, now your segue.
now we get into our financial nightmares. This is the halfway to Black Friday sale for Vinegar Syndrome is underway. By the time this comes out, it'll be over, but I'm pretty sure many of you have partaken in it. And as they do, they announce uh, rest of their titles that they were planning on releasing, and we've got that covered. So there is quite a few that they had already announced, that we had already covered. I don't know if Stephen, if you want to just rope them into the whole
Yeah.
enchilada
Well, I
here.
mean, yeah, the ones we'd already talked about, the Boogeyman in 4K. I am going to pick that up because it looks great. So I already pre-ordered
Yeah,
that.
A Blade in the Dark was another one they had
Yes,
already announced. And then I believe they had already announced, Villages of the
Showgirl.
Damned, 3
Sh-
horrors from Spain,
Yeah, and
um, and
Showgirls is for
Showgirls as well. Yeah, the 3 horrors from Spain were, The Forest of the Wolf, The Sky is Falling, and then Beatriz.
yeah.
Beatriz was the 3rd one that I did not get a chance to see at that time, and I wanted to watch it, um, for this one, but I didn't get a chance to, either. Um, yes.
Yeah.
So moving on from there, we've got a couple of new ones in the mix. We have Undefeatable, which is getting a 4K UHD release. This is a film starring Cynthia Rothrock. This came out in 1993. Cynthia Rothrock seems to be a Vinegar Syndrome fave, with
Yep.
a lot of her stuff coming out through them. I did get to see this because I think it's streaming somewhere, and it's an interesting movie. It's also not quite what the premise of the film suggests that it is. It is streaming on Tubi, it's streaming on Freevee. Those are the 2 places that it's streaming. So the film follows Christy Jones, portrayed by Cynthia Rothrock, who, along with her gang, take part in mafia-run street fights to earn money, and she's earning money for her sister's college education. Um, and and Christy herself hopes to become a doctor someday. It 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 makes no sense, because they never really follow up on that. Also, that is like 10% of what this movie actually is. So what happens in this movie is that is initially what is going on. Cynthia Rothrock's part of this gang. She's a badass. For those of you who don't know, Cynthia Rothrock, it's like a champion martial artist, like international champion of martial artist, and all that stuff. So she's kicking ass in these movies, and she's kicking ass in this movie. So that's what she's doing, and she's got this young sister who's going to college, and that's how she's paying her tuition. But then the movie takes a turn, and my goodness, does it ever take a turn to focus on this other character who is the big bad of this movie. And he is someone who is kind of he's psychotic, he's crazy, and he's going around and uh beating he's like he's got this wife who he's abusive to. She runs away on him, and it drives him into a further psychosis where he just goes around and finding women that look like his wife, thinking that they are his wife, and capturing them and murdering them. And then the
Wow.
cops are after him, and then Cynthia Rothrock gets kind of gets embroiled in it in a way. I won't say
I
how.
call that the Sarah Connor
He's kind of like a Terminator, yeah.
Sarah Connor like effect or something where
Yeah,
he's like
but
only looking for Sarah Connors.
unfortunately, this guy is like he's built in that Arnold Schwarzenegger like big buff guy mode.
Yeah,
He's like about a tenth the quality of an actor as Arnold Schwarzenegger is.
that's not
He's
good.
so bad.
That's
He's
not
so
good.
terrible. Yeah, it's not great, but the action in the movie is kind of awesome. Um, but yeah, a lot of people were calling it kind of a trashy movie, which I think is kind of insulting of the film in a way. But yeah, it's fine. There are loads of special features on here. There's two audio commentaries. There's a bunch of other ones on here that are like interviews with the producers, interview with the cinematographer, brand new interview with Cynthia Rothrock herself, uh, interview with the guy who I just insulted, Don Neum, who is the actor, um, and yeah,
I mean,
that's
Chris, a friend of the show, Chris O'Neill, did a video essay
yes,
comparing
he
the two
did.
versions. Yeah,
Yes, he did. Undefeatable versus Bloody Mary Killer, a video essay comparing the 2 versions by filmmaker Chris O'Neill. And there's a 12-page book, in here as well. The cover art looks cool. The
yeah.
movie's fine. It's fine. But you got to see the next film in here, which is also a 4K UHD release, and that is Night Screams.
Ah!
Ah,
Oh, sorry. It's nighttime and I decided to scream. Um, so yeah, Night Screams is about this young high school football player who decides to throw like a house party. You know, they're in the middle of nowhere. They're in Oklahoma. You know, that's all they can do is just have parties. And so this is essentially just about a couple prisoners, nearby prisoners, fugitives escape custody and start terrorizing these group of kids. And then there's a little bit of a wrench thrown in there. There's some other things that happen. I don't want to give away the twists, but look, this is kind of your prototypical '80s slasher film. It does star one of the main guys from the Karate Kid. I forgot the actor's name. From the original Karate Kid, not Johnny, but Johnny's friend. But I will say this: I enjoyed the movie. I think that the thing that really carries this movie well is that the kills are pretty inventive. There's a lot of really fun kills. If you look at the cover, you see this like grill with like a burger on it and an eye and everything. Well, there's a nice kill scene where a dude gets his face smashed into a grill while he's trying to make a cheeseburger, and it's kind of fun. Like stuff like that happens. People get electrocuted in hot tubs. Like it's got like a lot of fun kill scenes, and I think that that's what kind of makes it an entertaining watch. And it's not got any kind of iconography about it that makes it, the bad guys are not iconic. It's not that type of slasher, but it does have good kills. And I don't know if I'm going to buy this, but I might think about it. Maybe when it's on sale and it's like half off, maybe one day or something, I might grab it. But it's a decent slasher, kind of under the radar slasher. So I know you're looking for that actor's name.
I am. It is. I just found it. It's Ron Thomas.
Oh, the most generic white guy name ever.
I'm pretty sure he may be. I don't know if he is the character, but he may be the character. Remember it's one of the scenes in Karate Kid. I can't. I was gonna bring it up, but I can't really get it exactly. When I think it's when
he's the one that sweeps. He's the one that hurts the one kid.
Is he the one that sweeps Johnny's leg?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
I thought not Johnny.
He doesn't sweep.
Not Johnny's leg. What am I talking about?
Ralph Macchio.
Ralph Macchio. Daniel's leg.
Yeah. He's the one that fights before
Johnny.
In Johnny. Yeah.
But then isn't he the one who yells like, put him in a body bag?
Yeah.
That's him, right?
Yeah. I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. I always remember that line, but yeah, he's in that. He was also in Cobra Kai. Remember when they all got back together in one of the early seasons? But yeah, so moving on from there are a couple other ones. There is Ninja in the Claws of the CIA.
What a title!
Which is a great title. I did not get to see this. This is streaming on Tubi in just awful quality. They must have done absolute miracle work to make this look good.
It's also called Made in China.
Yes, it is. Which is that's not a good title.
It's a terrible
title. Yeah, it really is. So so it's about somebody who is recruited into the CIA for reasons. I mean, there's a whole there's a whole paragraph here of synopsis here that would be way too long to read.
Now I love this cover art is amazing. I love this cover. It's just it looks like the 70s. The movie came out in 81, but it looks like the 70s. I love it. Yeah.
Well, this movie has to deal with like the CIA doing mind control experiments on soldiers.
I want to watch this one so bad.
Yeah, it's on Tubi. If you can watch it, it is only available in an English dub on Tubi. So
that's fine. That's fine.
That's fine for Steven?
It's fine for me. I ain't as snooty as you.
Yeah, snooty. Unfortunately, it doesn't have much in the way of special features. Does have a brand new commentary. Does have an introduction by the filmmaker Curtis Spieler, who was the redirector of New York Ninja.
Yeah.
And it's got an 11-minute video essay by Justin DeClue.
Hey, we just talked to that guy.
Yes, we did.
You guys don't know this yet, but we're going to be talking to. Actually, I did announce that we're talking to Golden Ninja. I did announce that we were going to talk with him. So yeah, we just did that interview with Justin DeClue. So
yes, we did.
That'll be out soon. But
yes, it will be. And then we've got another release here. It's called Boggy Creek 2. And the legend continues. I've never seen Boggy Creek, so I felt like I couldn't watch this.
That and just
it looks atrocious. But
it stupid, so I just decided to.
It's not even. It says it's a spiritual sequel to the 70s film. Yeah. It's like a play on the Bigfoot myth.
Yeah. Maybe it's weird. weird and fun, but I just didn't have time for it. I had to make a choice, and this wasn't on the top of the choice list.
No, it wasn't one for me as well. Yeah, The Legend of Boggy Creek, I believe, is the original from 1972. Then Boggy Creek 2. No, because then there was a return to Boggy Creek. I don't know. This is getting weird now.
You're gonna confuse everybody.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a whole Boggy Creek series of movies. Holy heck. If you go onto IMDb and just type in Boggy Creek,
oh,
yeah, they
great,
made one in like 2019.
great.
This is madness. It's all about like Bigfoot and stuff. But moving on from there, because we didn't really get to see that. But it is a monster film, obviously. But something I did spend my time watching, or at least tried to watch, was this set here, which links up directly to the Radiance release. This is the Peter Zulkin Apocalypse Tetralogy. Now, this is put out by the Vinegar Syndrome Labs line, and this is 4 films by Peter Zulkin. It's the films Golem, The War of the Worlds Next Century, Obi Oba, The End of Civilization, and Gaga, Glory to the Heroes. Now, 2 of these movies you can currently watch on YouTube. Golem and Obi Oba, The End of Civilization, I believe, are both on YouTube. The War of the Worlds Next Century and Gaga, Glory to the Heroes is not. These films are fascinating. These are Polish films from about 1980, 1979 through 1985. And yeah, I had never heard of these movies. I had never heard of Peter Zulkin, but I know a little bit about Polish films made during that time because of Kieslowski. Kieslowski did a lot of Polish films during that time. Blind Chance, his Decalogue stuff, and some other work as well. And those films were, heaped in political themes and political stuff. And these films are even more so in them. I know Stephen, both of us got to see the movie Golem,
Yeah.
which is probably his most rawest film from what I've seen. It's a
It,
raw film.
out of all these, it's the earliest of the films.
Yes,
And
I think it's
so
it's his first feature length film.
yeah, he'd done a bunch of shorts, and so yeah, in Golem, it's all these films have this like dystopian apocalyptic world kind of, I believe, kind of themed around it. So visions of the future, and in Golem, you have the kind of the central idea is that humans are kind of like the outcasts. Anybody that has human characteristics or acts human in any way are like the outliers, and everybody else are these kind of like crazy, kind of like horrible people. You know, you know, doctors have found a way to turn everybody into like these like awful, almost inhumane people. And he kind of stumbles upon all types of people throughout the movie. It's kind of a movie without a plot, but it definitely is heavily themed, um, and kind of makes you kind of get drenched and pulled around by this kind of surreal world where he meets people that act like they know him. Like it's like he gets,
Mm, yeah,
it's like weird. Like he
yeah,
always runs into people and they act like they know him, but he's of course never met these
yeah.
people. And like,
He doesn't recognize anyone or the
yeah,
situations or anything like that. Also, the film is shot in an aesthetic that is kind of sepia tone,
yeah.
very yellowish, dark. Um,
You know what it
his
made me think?
aesthet
It made me think of Tarkovsky's Stalker.
Yeah, it did too.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
did too. Ironically, Tarkovsky's Stalker, I believe, made in the 70s,
It was
and
made a year before this came out.
oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So and that movie being a Russian film, actually it did come out in 1979. I didn't think it was that
yeah,
late. Um, that movie being a Russian film made in Russia during the time of the Soviet Union, fascinating. And then
yeah,
also this film made in Poland during the reign of the USSR, you know, owning Poland really, and under the fascist regime of communism, of all this kind of stuff. Also, just deeply fascinating as well because all of his movies are heavily anti-fascist films, heavily anti-USSR movies, and he is really playing on funneling that through this harsh, depressing, dark, hopeless dystopian world that he is creating in all of these movies, at least the two I've saw. Because you have the Golem, and then you've got the other film I saw was Obi Oba, The End of Civilization. And the premise of this is the world has been ravaged by nuclear war. The planet is frozen, and radiation kills anyone or anything that ventures outside of this underground dome like structure. And all of these people basically live in this structure, and they're waiting for this ark that's supposed to be on the way to come save them. And it's like, is there an arc? Is there not an arc? Is the arc just a lie to keep people from killing each other? Is the arc just an idea to pacify the masses? It's playing on that idea, and the movie yet again has that aesthetic of dark hopelessness that's just permeating throughout the movie. I really wanted to watch um, War of the Worlds: The Next Century because it's playing on the idea of the War of the Worlds, almost like a sequel, if you will, to the War of the Worlds. But in the War of the Worlds, this version, The Next Century, um, is like, so the Martians land, and then there's this guy who's kind of telling people one message about this, and then the government basically gets to him, and now he's got to tell the masses something completely different. So it's literally playing into this idea, this 1984 fascism idea of the government dictating to the people what they should or should not know about the reality of their world. You know what I mean? So that's the most clearest anti-fascist thing I think of all of these films. I did not get to, and I also didn't get to see Gaga Glory to the Heroes. Every time I hear the word Gaga, I think of Lady Gaga. Don't ask me
Ah,
why. Um, yeah, and this is another one where it's dealing with someone who is it says Scope is a prisoner on the behemoth space station and is chosen, like all of his fellow prisoners, to volunteer for the exploration of faraway planets. He lands on a planet and he is given a hero's welcome, and I'm guessing things don't go the way he plans them to go. He kind of gets forced into doing things that he doesn't want to do, and all of that stuff. So yet again, a kind of a whole power structure thing, being forced to do something you don't want to do. Yeah, there's a lot going on in these movies. I think these movies have to be watched, I feel like, more than once to kind of get a gist of what's going on in them. Very similar to kind of Tarkovsky, very similar to Kieslowski, where there's films are so deep in what they're trying to go for that the surface level plot level stuff is not the most important thing going on. Like, if you don't get it, that's not kind of the point. You're not supposed to be following a concrete story. You're not supposed to be, following a hero's journey or something like that. There's more thematic depth going on here. That's the important part. So yeah, I'm excited for this. Now, which set do you get? Do you get the Radiance one or do you get this one? That comes down to who you are
or
as a
do you
collector.
get both?
Or do you get
Uh,
both?
well,
We
look,
don't
look,
know. We don't know
we, d-
what the special features are going to be like
yeah,
for the Radiant set, and we get a gist of what the special features are like for this set. This is 4 movies on 2 discs, though, which makes me a little wary when it comes to compression things and stuff like that. Plus, we're getting um 2 brand new commentaries, one by Sam Deegan, one by Michael Brook. Sam Deegan's doing one for Golem. Michael Brook is doing one for the War of the Worlds Next Century. We're getting looks like a video essay on here for Obi Oba, The End of Civilization. Um, and then we're also getting a video essay for Gaga Glory to the Heroes, and then a 40-page book as well with essays and stuff. So yeah, this is an interesting set. Of all the VSL stuff that they've been doing, this one's the one that's got me. That's got me the
yeah,
most.
yeah, yeah. I agree, and it's gonna be tough. I'm leaning towards the Radiant set. I know that there's another movie in that set. This is my guess. I think that the Radiant set's going to have the first 3 in this set: Golem, War of the Worlds, and Obi Oba, The End of Season. I think that's going to be the 3 movies in the Radiant set. Just because I feel like tonally, the movies all tonally and thematically them all fit the best together. And when Fran posted about it, he said his 3 favorite. I'm gonna guess that them are history forever. That's just me. That's just me.
Or yeah, or
But
he could go War of the Worlds, next century, and then Obi Oba, and then Gaga. Um,
I don't know.
he
I
could
just
go
feel
that
like
route.
Gollum fits it so well.
I
Fits
know it
this.
really does.
I don't know. I just feel like that you can't leave that one. I hope that one isn't left out. But like I said,
I almost want Fran to change his mind and make it a 4 movie set, so I don't have to like choose.
really choose.
So I can
But
just get the Radius one to be fine. Because
I have a feeling the features on his discs are going to be more extensive, and I do believe because the set is bigger, it's going to be each movie on its own disc.
also we
Um,
didn't talk about it, but the current artwork for the Radiant set looks incredible.
it looks incredible. Yeah,
I think they're using like the poster for um I think War of the Worlds, or is it?
OBL by End of
Oh, it's that
Civilization.
the end of civilization. That makes
I
sense.
think so. Yeah,
It
no,
is called
that's
the
the
end of
name of the set. Yeah. So I I might end up getting both of these, and then you know deciding whether or if I can find a way to watch Glory to the Heroes, if that's the outlier movie, if I find that and then decide that I don't really need that, I don't like that movie that much, I'll just definitely get the Radiant set. I don't know, I haven't decided yet.
I think
um
it all comes down to um yeah, what movies are in that set, really.
and I think you're gonna have time. I don't think this set's gonna sell out anytime soon. um I believe it has a good amount um copies that are gonna be, it's probably one of them like limited to 5,000 or
I'm on their
something
site
like.
right now, so I can tell you.
Yeah, check it for me.
And
Um,
yeah, and that cover art is from the War of the Worlds Next Century,
yeah,
the one
okay,
on the Radiant set. So
I
it
got you.
is 5,000 units.
Yeah, so that's a pretty good amount. You probably the people that are waiting out for Radiance, or waiting to see what more about that are gonna wait to buy this. They might not buy this right away. So I think you're gonna have a good amount of time to make a decision, make an informed decision, or if you just want both of them, which is something that I might do. Um, you get both of them. So
Yeah, I don't think yeah, I remember when I said I wanted to become Radiance complete?
yeah.
So that is the quandary for me.
Yeah, I know, right? So I feel like
Quandary?
I feel like I have to get the
I
Radiance
know.
release if you want to be complete on it. But like I said, let's just I think it's a waiting game. I want to see what more is going to be on that Radiance set. But
I
yeah,
I think that's it. Is there
well,
anything
other than that, there were a couple exclusive slipcovers that kind
Oh,
of
yes.
it's things that were previous releases that they kind of brought back. They kind of do this a lot for every sale. They kind of bring back an old release and give it like an upgraded slipcover. One they did for Hell Comes to Frogtown, which is the Rowdy Rodney Piper film. That's a fun kind of sci-fi, kind of weird movie. Couple other ones. They had a couple other ones.
They did, Battle for the Lost Planet / Mutant
Yeah.
War.
Yep. Yeah.
Then
Buddies.
did you end up getting that?
I got that and Buddies. Yep.
Oh, okay then.
Yep.
Yeah, then they got Buddies was another one, and then the last one here was Fanny Hill / The Phantom Gunslinger.
Yeah, I didn't
And
get that one.
yeah, and these are like kind of reissue slipcovers. If you missed out on they aren't the original slipcovers, but they're just like if you missed out on them, these are like variant slipcovers. You can buy them with the movie if you haven't bought the movie yet, or you can just buy the slipcover by
Yeah.
itself to
Yeah.
put over your standard edition that you may have of the movie. They do that like every sale. They do that with a couple of them, and then there's some
Yeah.
extra
Yeah.
swag with like T-shirts and stuff like that.
Yeah. They got some posters for the for that set. Some T-shirts. Yeah. Yeah. So that's I'm sure everybody, like you said, this will come out after the sale's already done, but hopefully everybody got excited about this and got some things that they wanted, and yeah, it's always when a sale comes up, it's always a little overwhelming. What you got to decide to buy. I know me and Andrew both finally bit the bullet and bought our Cloak and Dagger release.
We did.
Yeah,
Everybody's got their strategy. I know that everybody's not everybody, but many people are there at midnight when it goes live and just
yeah,
grabbing their stuff right away. Um,
because a lot of things are not also 50% off. Like the partner labels got a lot of 50% off
they do.
stuff. Yeah, yeah,
But I mean, yeah, and I know they especially the Black Friday sale, I think is a little more hectic than the halfway to Black Friday sale.
yeah.
At least there seems to be more buzz about it. Um, I waited a little bit to see what was going selling fast. The VSU release of Roadhouse sold out, I think, within like the first day, so I made sure to snag that. I know that obviously Cloak and Dagger went out today, so as that was going, I wanted to get that, and then I keep my eyeballs on a couple of the partner label stuff that's slowly going. Um, but it's yeah, I'm way more patient than some people, which does bite me in the ass a few times. So, but yeah, I do like waiting for the sale. You do save a couple of bucks than buying
Yeah.
it regularly. Um, Also, you do get to feel like you're not missing out on things by grabbing a couple of things, but everybody buys at their own pace. Don't go crazy. Don't mortgage your house for showgirls or anything like
Don't
that.
tempt me. Don't tempt me. But that is it for spy number 101.
It is
We're into
indeed.
it's weird saying 3 numbers now. Um, but yeah, spy number 101 is complete. Thank you once again to Dylan Chang or Chang. I said Chung. Sorry, Dylan Cheung for joining us. Great conversation there. Please go check out everything he's doing. He's also a writer, so go reach out to him on Twitter. He'll, I'm sure, share some stuff with you. But Andrew, where can you be found?
You can find me on Twitter at Capzilla06, as well as our YouTube channel, Chasing Labels.
And you can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings, or over at my Letterboxd at Stephen Billings. You can find me also at the other Chasing Labels pages, whether it be our Twitter, Instagram, or our Facebook page, our group. Just ask us, we'll let you in. And then you can find the audio for the podcast on Podbean, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, and other places. Thanks again for listening, and hey, keep on watching the movies.
I know I will.